Got it, but run!
Wait, are we gonna be in
No!
Hold on.
I fucked up! No!
Come on, guys, push.
Fucking do it.
Come on.
Yes!
We done it.
Come on!
Yes! Fuck yeah.
Welcome everybody to MogTalk episode 183. Today is September 28th, 2019. If you guys haven't watched MogTalk before, it's a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community discussing everything from Savage Raiding to Chuckable Racing. Before we get started and getting into our topic, which is about healers, I do want you guys to know who's on the call so they don't just sit here kind of awkwardly while I talk. And I'm going to do this out of order. I think I have an order in the list, but I'm going to do it with the person who has the cam first. So Crystaahhl, do you mind introducing yourself and telling everybody who you are?
Hi, I'm Crystaahhl, and I'm a full-time streamer and cosplayer, and yeah, that's it.
Okay. Fair enough. Also experience with all three healers, clearing all the Savage fights with all three healers, right? So you have experience. Okay, good.
Yeah, and I just started like the last month of Stormblood, so I don't know if that counts because that was like 20% echo. So yeah. Okay. That was my first time healing, and now I just have done it ever since.
All right. Now we'll go to our next guest here who are hiding behind a veil of their profile pictures. Momo, could you tell everybody who you are?
Hi, my name's Momo. I'm a scholar main, but I play all the healers.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I play White Mage and Scholar and pretend to know how to play Astro.
Okay. And if you guys aren't familiar with Momo, he does a lot of streaming here where he promotes trying to just be a better player overall and just, optimization. So let's throw that in there too. It's not just some random guy who likes to heal. So let's introduce our last guest here, Ayesa, or better known to a lot of people as Spencer. Can you tell everybody who you are, dude?
Hello, I'm Ayesa. According to Frosty, I'm a White Mage main because he doesn't want to use my old POVs before Shadowbringers.
Yeah.
I've been a healer since I started playing this game. Pretty much a healer in every MMO that I play.
Okay. And I'm having to give extra information for all of you guys because you suck at, describing yourself. Ayesa here is world first of E4S in that group there. So a very, very good healer in terms of progression. So, there we go. Then we got three healers on here who play all the jobs, right, expertly, and they know everything about every single healing spell and optimization, and we're going to have a very interesting conversation today. So
say Kappa right now.
Kappa.
Oh, guys. But seriously, we did want to have a conversation today about healers in Shadowbringers. We had a show about 30 episodes ago or so, around that time, before Shadowbringers came out, discussing everything with all of our woes about there not being a fourth healer, about potential issues we see from what we saw pre-release in the media events and everything else. And so now we've experienced it for a good handful of months now. We can actually discuss it and see how much we like or hate it. I'm going to be honest, there is a ton of people out there who have convinced me, wow, healer's in a horrible state. It's the worst state they've ever been in, ever. I'm really upset. I don't want to play healer anymore. I found out later this week that not everybody thinks like that, but do you guys feel like that hatred towards the state of healers right now is justified?
Yeah, 100%. I think. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, it's just like, it depends what camp you come from, right? You have the camp of, if you have one button, you can recover easier, you can heal easier, and then you have the camp of, if nothing goes wrong, you're just sitting there pressing one button, kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. It does seem like that's how people are thinking, and I would say we have a variety of people who have different thoughts on this show. Crystaahhl, do you feel like healers are in a horrible state right now?
Yes and no. I'm like I'm on the fence because I do think it's a little bit better in the sense that it's more accessible to new players, which I think is important. But for the people that played healer, for years in this game and it got easier, then that's the other side of the spectrum. So I'm in the middle. Like,
I gotcha.
I'm super on the fence about it.
Yes,
Because I do think it's more important to not like cater to new players and make it easier for them. I don't think it's like completely easy. It's still a hard role no matter what, especially if you're pugging, but
right. Fair. Yes, tell us your elitist thoughts on this topic here.
Elitist, thanks, Frosty.
Yeah.
So I think part of the issue and part of the reason why people are upset is that there's been, particularly in this expansion, quite a bit of lost identity with each of the jobs, or at least with Scholar and White Mage. Scholar's pretty much lost all of its Arcanist kit now, which is something that gave it flavor as a healer, that you had a set of spells that were also shared with Summoner, and now that's gone almost entirely. And we're probably at the stage where they're going to split them like completely next expansion, and maybe not have Arcanist as a prerequisite for Scholar at all.
Yeah.
And then with Astro, the card system's been changed so that the flavor of the different cards has just completely gone out the window.
Yeah.
They're all just damage cards now, and the actual identity of the card you draw is only relevant for divination and for which type of job you play it on, either melee or ranged. And I think that's upset a lot of the Astro players.
I think this is all very good points here. I mean, when we're talking about the identity of these jobs, that was the biggest thing that people were complaining about. They were like, oh, sucks because, we want it to have, it sucked that you're only using balance in the first place, but now it sucks that there is no other option. You're just using balance over and over again. You're just saying, oh, do I do a balance on range or do I do a balance on melee? And that's kind of boring. I think the other part is when it comes down to like simplicity, and we were talking about, Momo, you're talking a little bit earlier, how it goes, either everything goes well and it's way too easy, or things can kind of crumble down, and that's the only time that might be fun. So it's like you have to be kind of masochistic, right? To enjoy healer, you have to find bad people to play with so you can use all of your kit and feel good. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but I mean, we could. I think something that I hear that was said, but I think another issue with healing now is that I don't remember. Do you remember the show we had last MogTalk with healers, where
Yeah, vaguely.
we said that in Stormblood, they gave us more tools but reduced the healing checks. Well, our worst fear happened again, where they reduced the healing checks, or more or less kept them the same.
Yeah.
It was even more tools to handle those. So it just becomes, it's not as fun as it used to be, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we deal with the process of trying to make a person who comes to this game a little bit more casually happy, as well as the people who love this game so much they're spending hours and trying to optimize. We want to make them happy in some way and reward them for being good at the game. But you can't make like the test of that skill be really high to where all these people who are doing really good, it makes a difference in the fight in terms of, I guess, whether you clear it or not. Because if you do that, then you're cutting out all the casual players in the game, right? The people who don't have time to study up and push the job as far as they can. But I mean, there's so many other factors at play, because these players naturally get better when they get more gear. So even if they don't really improve, they can heal more and do better just because gear comes to them after a few weeks. Do you feel like there's some way to make both of these camps happy with the jobs right now?
I was thinking about like, what if they just? I mean, I don't know if this would make one camp happy, but they could do something where you give us, big dots, right? You give like each class like 3 to 4 dots, and you make the filler like really weak. That way you lose less when you have to heal, kind of thing. I don't know.
Okay. So give them dots that makes the person that they're healing feel weak? What do you... Sorry, say that one more time.
Like just dots, like, bio, miasma, bio 2, like kind of like old
okay.
scholar, and you make the filler weaker so that when you actually like, shit goes wrong, you're losing less as it is now, kind of thing. But it's still like you still have that skill level of managing those dots.
Right. So you mean DPS wise for healers, if they had more dots they had to manage, that would be good?
Maybe, I don't know. I was just, you can't really lower the skill level as it is now. Like it's probably what we have now is probably the easiest you can get it without making it any easier.
You're I think some people would disagree with you. Square Enix does have the ability to make things easier than we believe.
You think?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they could get rid of the dot and just make it all filler.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
But then again, when we're talking about the people who are kind of happy with healer as it is right now, what's their defense for being happy with it?
I don't know. I feel like I'm part of the rare few that do like the state of healers right now. Like, do I want them to be more difficult? Of course I do. Like, of course it would be nice to have like more DPS rotation, but do I think it's good for the game? Not necessarily, because I'm mainly pug, and 9 times out of 10 I don't have a good co-healer.
Yeah.
It's either they like overheal over everything or don't heal at all. It's always one end of the spectrum, but never like a happy middle. So I think if you gave them more to think about as far as like giving them more dots or giving them more over rotation, then I think everybody's brain would explode, at least with being new to healing. But that's just coming from a pug perspective. But whenever I completely agree on the other side of the fence, because I am in 2 statics that I heal with. And whenever I heal with my statics, I'm pretty bored because it's the same healing. I know my co-healer really well. So yeah, I get bored there. But whenever it comes to pugs, that's why I don't think that it would be a good idea to add more DPS in that sense.
Well, I mean, they could add it, but just not make it required, I guess, in some way. Possibly. I mean, and this is really what a lot of this conversation comes down to is pugs versus, people who are not in pugs, people who are in statics. When you're dealing with people that you know how to work with, they know exactly when you're going to heal and use your ability. The other person knows when you're going to heal and use your abilities. It's completely different than the pug atmosphere. Because how many times do you go into a pug and they're like, oh, I'm going to do this here?
Yeah, that's what I like about pug healing a lot, because I'm always looking at my co-healer. Especially, I love looking at Astros, especially more than Scholar and White Mage. I love seeing where they place their SARs, if they use horoscope ever, or if they actually proc it, if they're going to use neutral sect, and where they place it. So I like pug healing for that reason. I learn a lot from other healers, and everybody does something completely different all the time. So it's like always a learning experience, or a frustrating one. It can go both ways.
Yeah.
But so I value it a lot.
And I don't know, do we want healing to be at that point to where the healers do have to have these little discussions about when they use their cooldowns in a fight?
No.
No? Momo?
I never felt like I needed to talk to a pug about healing, at least in this tier. Maybe it's just because this tier is easier to heal. Maybe.
I think there's like a little misconception going on with pugs and stuff, because like if you're a good healer kind of thing, you kind of like, you set the tone, right? You kind of control like the fight. Like if you're a really good Astro, your co-healer probably has to do very little. If you're a good Scholar, I mean, White Mage is probably, I mean, even a White Mage, right? You just pop Cure 3. If you're good, you kind of like, okay, my co-healer is kind of lacking. Pop Cure 3, they didn't want to do Sucker or Constellation or whatever, then you're good. So like if you're good, you don't really need to talk per se. Like if I'm trying to think how to word this.
Well, I mean, I know you don't need to do it now, but I mean in terms of if it should be that way.
The
No?
question is, how would you make it that way? Like just
You'd make it to
heal-
where when you have to discuss different parts of the fight. When damage is going out, you have huge AoEs happen, then another set of huge AoEs, and you run out of what you have to fix that situation with your cooldowns or whatever else, and they have to use their cooldowns afterwards to make up for it. Kind of like how tanks in some way have to organize, hey, I need to take this tank buster, you're going to take this other tank buster, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind something like that. Like as long as it wasn't
Yeah.
super complex, like, okay, you know, here's a spreadsheet, copy it kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like, you know, healers do communicate, right? Like if you do Titan last phase, like if you try to wing that without like a, you know, proper heal plan,
Mhm.
it's going to hurt. It's going to be a pain in the ass.
Okay. Ayesa, do you have a lot of experience with pugs, or do you mainly stick with your static?
I mostly stick with my static, but I mean, I can bring the prog perspective since we always do the
Yeah.
world prog, and you know that's where we go in blind, and so it's obviously a mess since we don't know what's going on, and that environment's more interesting to heal in than something that's optimized and you know
Right.
exactly where you need to heal and how greedy you can be and things like that. It's not.
Yeah. And so I guess that would be a good question for you, Spencer, is if you guys are, when you're doing prog here and you're saying, well, we're going through, keep everyone alive as much as possible. If someone messes up, that's okay. We still got to push forward, right? And so you have this mentality of going in there and using all of your tools, constantly thinking about what you need to do to stay alive, to see mechanics, and analyze to fight. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And so in that environment, when you did World Prog for the 16 hours that you did World Prog, was it enjoyable to heal?
Yeah, for sure. I think the most enjoyable kind of fights is when you get something like the nail phase on UCOB, which is just incredibly chaotic, and you get a lot of experience trying to recover bad pulls, trying to recover from deaths in an environment where one death can often set off like an avalanche of other people dying. And trying to triage those situations is what makes you a better healer.
Right. And I mean, so yeah, being a good healer is how you react in bad situations. It's not really how you go down the script, which a lot of healers, that's only what they experience, I think, in Final Fantasy XIV. The strategy's already there, and they just have to go down the script. Or at least a lot of people do that with that mentality. There are other healers that are like, hey, we're progging as a group, we're trying to figure it out. Let me see what I can use in my tools, just make sure this goes as smoothly as possible so we can see as much as we can and learn as much as we can. But would you say that's like the average player, or am I being kind of pessimistic by thinking most players, they just do what they feel like they have to do, and they don't really think past that?
I think it's up to the individual to play the game how they enjoy playing it. You know, if you're the kind of person who likes having that spreadsheet and just, you know, learning when to push what button, having someone else tell you when you should use your cooldowns, like, more power to you. If you're the type who wants to go in there and just wing it every week,
yeah,
in PF or whatever, then, you know, that's fine too. I don't know.
Because, I mean, we're seeing where healers need to be tuned to. Like, where are we tuning healers to? Are we tuning them towards that guy that logs in once a week and kind of just wants to get past fights? Or are we tuning it towards the people who repeatedly play the content?
It's definitely not tuned for the people who repeatedly clear the same content. Definitely not.
No way.
Okay. So I guess we should discuss a little bit about that type of player and how you would make that type of player happy, just for a bit. Because without the restriction is tuning it that way to where it doesn't harm the rest of the healing community in a detrimental way, like they can still play and enjoy the game in some fashion. So how would you change it right now to maybe make it better for those healers that want to push it?
So here's the problem I have with healers right now.
Okay.
We've got a simple DPS rotation, right? But it's also a very selfish one. If you want to do the most damage that you can, you are by necessity a selfish player. Like, I think White Mage is probably the worst right now because they don't have any real weaving opportunities outside of their dot once every 30 seconds and when they decide to use one of their Afflatus heals. So if you want to do big white mage damage, you're gonna use your AoE Afflatus healing skill every 45 seconds just to weave in a size. Regardless of whether or not these things are healing things, you want to do that just for your own damage. It's really selfish, but that's the kind of design we have. And when I look back on Heavensward Scholar, which is what we're, like me and Momo are probably going to talk a lot about.
Okay.
Like you could do good damage on that without compromising your ability to heal. It was down to player's skill, how you aligned your dots. And you would try to align them such that, you know, when you needed to throw out your indom, you were refreshing one of your dots. When you needed to move, you were refreshing one of your dots, that kind of thing. And so doing good damage and still fulfilling your role as a healer, they never felt like mutually exclusive activities. And you look at like the current Scholar, where you got so many off globals now. Like even all the pet stuff is now player off GCDs. Like the pet no longer acts independently. And so anytime you want to use one of those like dozen plus healing off globals, you got to ruin 2, pretty much. And that costs you 80 potency. And so if you're selfish, you want to do good damage, you don't want to use those skills. You don't want to do any healing. You don't even want to use your fairy heals, which are free, because it costs you damage. And I think that's poor design.
Okay. So just to make sure I got that clear, we're talking about basically you have to make choices between doing max healing and max damage, right? And so you say, all right, I'm going to do as much damage as I possibly can. That may affect how well I'm able to heal throughout the fight, but you think it shouldn't really correlate like that?
There's a very clear cut. If I'm going to do any healing, it's going to cost me damage. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think it's the right way forward, especially in like a party finder environment where you get people who, you know, they're there for their parse, and you know, screw everyone else who's here to try and get clear. Like screw the one guy in the party who's here to get their weekly clear in like a 0 chest.
I mean,
like
that's actually a pretty good point, because when you think about it, that does, if you're a tank, from my stupid ignorant tank perspective here, right? When you're going in and you're fighting, doing your defensive cooldowns, doing things that prevent damage and help the fight doesn't normally hurt your damage, unless if you want to be unoptimized about it and run and just wait for the boss to finish casting before he comes to you and you get him in position, right? But otherwise, most of those times, doing your role in the fight doesn't hurt your ability to do one or the other. I guess, is that what I'm catching? Did I get it right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. You're exactly right.
All right.
Yeah, maybe Momo can offer us some more insight on this, because he does a lot of PF, especially on his stream.
Yeah.
This is one thing I wanted to mention. I think it's Scholar. Even if you heal with your bio dot, you're still losing 80 potency, because if you aren't able to get your energy drain out of that bio, you're going to have to do a rune to somewhere down the line to like fix it, because usually you want to go into your Aetherflow bio with using an ED, because that puts you at a point where you can refresh your Aetherflow without having to do any extra rune twos. So like Scholar actually loses 80 potency, even healing with bio, assuming they don't get that ED off, which is also kind of feels bad. So it's even more restriction there.
Okay. Crystaahhl, you want to throw anything in on that? You think it's all been said?
For that topic, pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay. So I guess in the idea way that we would change it to make players happy overall is to give them more things they can optimize without, I guess, damaging their role's ability to be really badass at healing. Because again, yeah, we do live in a world in Final Fantasy 14, and I guess in most games where we want to do as much damage as possible, put out as much so we can kind of go up on FF logs a little bit more. Or we could just get a higher parse and we could post a screenshot and say how badass we are compared to everyone else in our group, right? So I guess that would be good, but I mean and that wouldn't really hurt the bottom line, right? The people who are out there just trying to heal, they don't, it doesn't really change anything for them. Their world stays the same.
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't really care about optimization and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably like a second thought. Like 80 potency, that's probably like, you know, they probably don't even know how much that equals in like damage, so they don't really
It's
care,
80.
You know? Yeah, 80 seems small, right?
Yeah.
You know, in a pug, you know, 80 is small.
Yeah.
But like 80 is only big in like, you know, perfect run scenarios where like, okay, 80 potency, that's like what, 10 DPS? Like,
okay. Well, I guess here's the part to this. We do have Ultimate coming out, so that does give us the situation of making more challenges for healers and everything else. Do you feel like maybe when Ultimate comes out, it's going to raise that cap and people aren't going to be as upset with healers because of what they have to do in Ultimate? Or is it going to be so figured out still that it's still going to be boring doing Ultimate as a healer?
depends how good you are, I guess. Like a good healer, the issues will still persist in Ultimate. Like if you look at Uwu or Ucob, right? There were still phases in that fight where there was just no damage going out. So like we're just spamming heal or DPS abilities. And they can't make fights like that. Especially with the current MP system, they can't make fights that require a lot of GCD healing because you'll run out of MP really fast. Like look at Titan, the last phase. You run out of MP really quickly if you don't manage it properly.
Yeah. Okay.
Super punishing.
Yeah. All right, and I guess the other part to all this, and I'll kind of throw this in here, is people were complaining a little bit that the off-global heals are extremely powerful, and this is something that, I don't know, maybe need to be addressed and look into. Do you guys kind of agree with that? Is that part of the problem as well?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's two routes they can take. They can either keep the powerful off globals, but if they do, they need to give us a bit of a more involved DPS rotation because that's what we're doing if we're doing all the healing with off globals. And the alternative is to remove the off globals and actually give us some healing spells that are more than just, you know, basic cure 2, medica 2. There's a lot of room. You know, the healing spells that actually exist are really simple. There's room for some interesting design here.
Well, I guess on our last show as well, that was one of the things that we were suggesting is that we make GCDs actually feel really good, right, Momo?
Yeah, I think so I don't know if you saw Zep's opinion on Twitter, but he said something about making like a healer combo kind of. I think that would be good for healing. Damage combo, you know, I'm not really sure how I'd feel about that because like imagine doing a damage combo and you have to heal. You just either break the combo or you potentially lose that potency. But the healing combo, I don't think is a bad idea.
Like the 1, 2, 3 kind of situation. Yeah,
you could have something like that, you know, like maybe 150 potency for the first one, 300 for the second, and then like a big heal for the third or something, like a cure 3, like equivalent.
So cure 1, cure 2, cure 3, maybe.
Hopefully, it would have more beneficial effects on it, like not just flat potency, because that would just be the equivalent of spamming heals. But they have the potential to make it interesting.
Okay.
I mean, fishing for the free cures used to kind of be more of a thing in Heavensward when you actually needed to be more proactive about tank healing. And so getting free cure procs back then was actually pretty nice, but since then it's kind of a joke now. Like if you cast cure 1 now, I don't know, people are gonna look at you funny.
Yeah, like if you use like regen, right? Like people look at you funny, like because you have like Solus now, like you don't like it's free. It's the equivalent of a cure to Instacast, no MP cost. Like it's
Mhm.
I don't know. It's like it's just the whole philosophy of healing has been like turned upside down just because the current design philosophy of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I did see a quick question in chat. I figured we might as well go ahead and answer real quick. They were asking if Ayesa streams, and he does. If you want to, go ahead and follow him at Ayesa Fail. He'll probably be streaming later tonight or tomorrow.
What? Why are you trolling, Frosty? Your poor viewers.
No pressure. Got to put on a stream now.
Yeah. Come on, everybody wants to see World first.
Yeah, I think I can manage to stream about, I don't know, about 10 pixels or something on my connection.
You can just get your phone and use mobile data and just like put it over your screen and put the camera on the screen. And just
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds like a good setup.
yeah.
Sounds pro.
Oh, jeez. Okay. So one thing I noticed, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, and maybe I'm just imagining this, is I do party. That's all I do is Party Finder. I don't have a static. I just kind of go and see what's going on with Party Finder every week. If I can find a group, great. If I can't, then it is what it is. But the consistent thing always seems to be looking for healers and trying to find healers to fill the last spots. Tanks kind of get in there. DPS, not too bad. Just healers always seems to be the last piece of the puzzle for those groups. And I always assumed it was because people just didn't want to heal anymore. There was no extra healer. There was no any incentive to play these healers because there's nothing really fun or interesting to learn right now. And they all start playing tanks or other DPS jobs. Do you guys feel like that might be the case, or am I just imagining that?
Definitely.
Definitely
Yeah.
the case. And I think there's a reason for that, and it comes down to FF Logs culture probably. Because at this point in the game, everything, if somebody fucks up, somebody dies, you lose so much DPS on healer. It's unreal. And people, like, it's FF Logs has been huge this expansion.
Right.
Like, it's just grown. So it's probably due to that, combined with the boringness of it.
No, that actually makes a huge point, because if there's not a perfect run, then the run was wasted for you as a
I mean,
healer.
it's just
completely.
the mentality of some healers. Yeah, DPS is everything, you know? And it's true. I mean, it's kind of parroted in a sense from players who don't have the right idea. It's like people say, oh, you know, if you're not a good healer unless you DPS, right? But what makes a good healer at this point, right? Can you really say pressing one button makes you a good healer? You know, healing with your off GCDs makes you a good healer. Like before, you could argue, hey, you know, you balance your DPS spells, you balance your healing spells. That's pretty cool. You know, that's pretty cool. But now, you know, you pop Rune 2, pop Seraph, AoE done, or AoE done, you know? Nothing there.
Okay. I always thought that if that kind of situation happened and healers, at least subjectively, were easier to play, that more people might heal because you lose that fear and that stress of doing a bad job. But did that really get removed with how they changed healers?
I think it's just the role of healing that overwhelms people from my experience in Party Finder. It's not, for me, the majority of the new healers that I come across aren't worried about parsing. It's like they don't care about, you know, a lot of people aren't DPSing as high as they should be, but that doesn't really bother me because I want people to try healing. It's like people used to have tank intimidation. Like people didn't want to tank because they didn't want to leave the party. And that still exists, but I feel like now it exists more for the healer side of things where people are intimidated, being like, I call it the mom of the group because you have to take care of everybody and clean up their shit.
That's true.
It's true. Yeah. So I've come across a lot of healers, pug healers, especially in E1S, that just stop healing after E1S because they're too stressed out. And also the casual toxicity kind of plays into that too, where a lot of people point fingers immediately at the healers, and that turns off a lot of people. So I think that it being healers being a little bit easier is good for that. Like there's a lot of options. You can do OGCD heals. You can do Medica 2 spam. You could do Cure 3 spam for all I care. Like, of course I want healers to be good and like do OGCD healing and try to be effective, but it's just the nature of healing, I think, overall, that people don't want to heal in Party Finder. It's tough, especially with how toxic people can be.
Yeah, I think
and you get the most blame for it.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the same thing. Like, you know, people if you see a low DPS healer, that's the first person that gets flamed usually.
Yep.
And I think that probably scares off people because, like, if it's your first time healing, you're expected to DPS, you're expected to heal. And I mean, it's not, I'm not going to sit here and defend, 1,000 DPS healers. But if you're doing, like, let's say you're doing E1, you're doing like 4,000, 5,000, it's fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're trying.
Yeah. And I think that's what it really comes down to as well, is that people come in and they're like, okay, I'm going to learn how to heal this fight. They're not thinking about, I'm going to learn how to heal this fight and squeeze in damage. And so they get in there and they're learning, they're trying to do different things. There's been so many groups that I've gone through, and we do our first attempt, and they're like, oh yeah, the healer's DPS is too low, see you guys later, and they're out. Or you have two healers who sit there and they're not coordinating how they're healing or anything, and then people die and they're like, well, you're not healing. And it's like two healers sitting there pointing at each other like, it's your fault, you didn't heal enough. And so they're expecting they're expecting someone to carry, and they're like, oh, if no one's being healed, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I hit my AoE button, everybody's supposed to live.
Magic.
Yeah. And it's strange because you see that, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to be like, hey guys, stop it, knock it out. But I also want them not to be shitty. I want them to do a good job.
Well, Frosty, that's pretty elitist.
I guess so. I mean, I have a few hours a week to play, and I hope I go into a group as well. It is true. I do have those hopes. I do understand that's not always the case. And sometimes I'm the bad guy. I'm the guy who sucks, and I'm fucking everything up. It's just part of, I'm sure people are like, I wish Frosty wasn't in this group. I'm like, yeah, I guess I shouldn't be here, and out, right? But usually that goes away. I guess what I'm saying is that it's still a strange world for new healers going out there and learning everything, and it doesn't feel like any of the changes they made has made it really that much better. Even though they simplified it, I feel like it's not really making more people want to heal or making it better overall. And I almost feel like adding that complexity would be good just because it keeps more people in there. Like one of my friends, he comes on the show all the time, Bach, he loved Astro back when it came out. He loved the idea of all these little things that he could do in the situations, and if this, then that kind of scenarios. And that, of course, was taken away. And so maybe he doesn't care about it as much, although I'm sure he does. But it's... I feel like inviting those players into those healing positions is better than trying to invite everybody into it and just having people who are angry, suck, and they yell at each other, and then you're in the party finder for 10 minutes after waiting 30 minutes for the group to fill, and it's done. That sucks, man.
Oh yeah, it does.
Jeez.
Usually if I come across a healer that doesn't do a lot of DPS, like I don't expect everybody to be great, but I do think like 4K, 3K bare minimum.
There's a standard. Yeah, there's a standard, of course.
There's like a bare minimum. Yeah, bare minimum that you should be doing. And if I come across somebody like that, I usually, I've tried to bring it up in the nicest way possible, usually in the form of telling people that they just need more practice on the fight, because you're going to do more DPS once you realize where you have to and not have to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't have to heal for 30 seconds after an AoE hits, you don't need to heal that right away. You can just let regens do the work, or, you min-max your healing and you're going to do more DPS as a result.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like maybe it would be a good idea to kind of go back, or I don't know if go back to, but more of creating a atmosphere where it's okay healers don't do damage? Like it doesn't affect you clearing a fight or not? Or should that always be part of healers' role in a fight to clear it?
I think it should to a certain degree, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you can reduce the maximum healer output so the disparity is not quite as high, but
yeah,
if you want to take it away entirely, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
the healers that do damage
Mhm.
versus the healers that do no damage, it's, having extra DPS in the group is, drastically decreases the encounter length.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's currently what it is, but let's just say we go back and healers now, like if they're doing really good damage, they're doing 1,000 or 2,000 damage, 2,000 throughout the entire fight. And if they did that it wouldn't make a big difference if they did 1,000, 2,000 versus 0. You'd feel it, but it wouldn't be huge, right? Should we get into that scenario or keep it to where healers can do up to 8,000 damage per fight?
more like 10,000, but yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, yeah. Voidwalker E1, you could get pretty close to 10,000 on a white mage.
All right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But do you feel like we should get down to where healers just do lower damage and it makes it to where it's not so painful when healers come in and they don't do any damage at all?
I mean, you have to define what you mean, right? Like, are we talking about, hey, let's add a bunch of mechanics that just make you drop to 1 HP and you have to spam GCD heals to recover? Is that really fun?
No, I don't mean.
Really interesting
I
like
mean
that?
it more like it's just not possible, right? The damage potencies are so low that you can't put out that damage.
I mean, they could do that, but it would just be. It would feel the same, right? Like if they, let's say the toolkit's the exact same, right? You just drop everything down to like, let's say Glare is now 150 potency instead of 300. Everything's scaled down. It would still be the same effect. It's just that it would look smaller, but the percentages would probably still be the same. Like that 2,000 healer would just drop down to 1,000. It'd still be a big gap.
Yeah, but it won't. The gap is so large between regular damage that it's not determining if you're going to clear the fight or not. That's kind of what I'm thinking, is that if you have a healer that does 10,000 damage versus one that does 1,000 damage right now, it's basically you might not be able to clear the fight, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that healer damage should be brought down, but I'm only talking about like 20%, right? Maybe 10%.
Yeah.
Just enough to where they're not out DPSing tanks.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of silly.
They shouldn't be out DPSing tanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I was just kind of curious because I mean, if we make it to where the difference between a bad and good healer at DPS doesn't really matter as much, it does help you clear it maybe 10, 20 seconds faster, but it's not going to be like monumental. If that would really change the atmosphere, but I guess healers, we're at this point to where we want damage to be part of what we do as a healer, right? We don't want them to take that away. We don't want to have just like no damage abilities and literally go into a fight. And the difference between you doing damage or not is if you're a summoner whacking with books, right?
You would kill the game instantly if they did that.
Yeah, it would be horrible.
Okay.
Unless like, even if they made healing harder, let's say that they force you to require GCD heals, it wouldn't really be fun still because it's scripted, right? They would have to make something like, I think Nail Phase is a really good example because it has really big RNG elements to it. Because you can get like, random thermal beams. And then if they scaled the damage to like something like that, where there's like huge random damage, that would be pretty interesting. I wouldn't mind something like that. But then you get into the territory of, can someone that's, inexperienced handle a situation like that? So it would probably just be kept ultimate, which I mean, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Something fun.
But it's good to know that there's a difference when you play versus someone who has experience versus someone who doesn't have experience. It's good to find some sort of factor in there, and it kind of sucks that factor is how much damage they do. It would be nice if somehow healing played a part. Because, I mean, before, it was you reward it by good healing by being able to do more damage. But does it still feel like that? Like, if you heal good enough, that means you just do more damage overall? Or do you kind of just, you heal a certain amount and it doesn't really affect how much damage you're going to do?
I feel like that only works with Astro.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. So
that's what I'm trying.
No. Okay. Sorry. So back before, I remember this being a big part of the conversation, is that you reward it with really good and efficient healing by having more availability to do more damage overall. And so that means that if you're a really good healer, you're going to be able to do more damage. Now, do you feel like that's still part of the game right now?
Like, I mean, it is, right? To a certain extent, you can't say it's not.
Yeah.
But if I'm understanding the question correctly, at least, it's more of like, the off, you like saying you're talking about the off GCDs, right?
I'm talking about just overall being a good healer. What makes you a good healer right now? It's it's not over healing. It's
Right.
healing efficiently. It's healing to a point to where
okay.
yeah.
I understand that. Okay, yeah. So that's what I was asking earlier. I was like, what can you really call a good healer, right? Because personally, like, you know, the only thing you really call a good healer right now is the prog healers, right? Healing during prog determines your skill.
Yep.
Right. Like you can't say, I honestly, you know, you can't sit here with a straight face and say, hey, you know, I'm pressing one button, you know, I'm doing 10,000 DPS, dude. I'm insane. I'm the best healer in the world, right?
A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, but it's not how it works.
Right.
It's, you know, the best healer is the prog healer, in my opinion. A person who can heal prog and get good results are the best healers.
So Ayesa is the best healer.
Yeah, no, I've said, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I think Ayesa is really good.
Okay. Ayesa, you've been kind of quiet there. You just kind of messing around with your fairy.
Yeah. She needs another lecture on how to embrace the right target.
Okay.
Ooh, sorry, I saw something in chat that I think is also a good point. Is, you know, because the game is scripted, there's really only one healing pattern that works, right? There's always going to be that one healing pattern. It's the healing pattern that, you know, does the less rune 2s, does the less lilies, you know, less GCD heals, less anything, right? There's only one of those, right? And once somebody figures that out, you're pretty much just copying them at a certain point, right? Unless you try to figure it out yourself, which is also like, does copying really make you a good healer if you can just copy and execute it? And then, you know, it's one button, right?
Well, you know, sometimes I like to see some really good pictures in a book, and I take a piece of paper and I kind of trace around it, and I feel like I'm a good artist.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the same concept.
No, yeah,
I guess, but like,
right.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So it's I get what you mean. It's strange, the people who are in the front line, but there's only so many people who can actually do that. You can't offer that same experience to the entire population. You can only offer it to people who wake up at 3 a.m. to prog fights, right? And certain groups that are actually dedicated to doing that, which is very few. I can barely think of one or two.
You could argue it's the same way, right? If you don't have a good team, you're not going to be a good healer in the terms of community, right? Like if you have a team that fucks up, even your speed, right? If you have a shit like kill time, you know, shit team forgets mitigation. It's the same concept, you know. You're never going to be able to compete.
Yeah,
that's true. All right. Let's pinpoint some of these questions here that I have. I haven't even looked at the questions, to be honest with you. But I
much to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about here, but I figured we can go ahead and get one of these here. Do you feel like right now, I guess, in the whole big picture of everything, Savage is too easy for healers for everyone, or is it just too easy for really good players? Is that a hard one? Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, you know what? Ayesa.
I think that this is really the sweet spot.
This is the sweet spot? Okay. Ayesa.
I think that this tier difficulty is the sweet spot. Do I want it harder? Yeah.
Okay.
But do I think that there's a lot of new players too? Yeah. And there's an ultimate too if they want something even harder that's coming.
Okay. Ayesa, at your perspective,
I mean, my perspective is not a good one to answer this question, I don't think.
Okay. But I mean, answer it either way. We were expecting you to be salty, not to be everybody's friend and buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I definitely think for newer healers that this is the right spot. Like I remember when I was learning this game, it was back in Gordia Savage, and you know, that was a headache and a half. Like as someone new to healing in this game, like not new to healing in general, but new to healing in Final Fantasy and getting used to this game being scripted and things like that. It was really difficult. It was really unforgiving.
Yeah.
So, you know, I do know some more casual people who are still doing like still progressing Eden like on the 3rd or 4th turn as healers. And I think, you know, the difficulty is definitely right for them. Although it's very easy for me to like watch them and criticize and like point out all their mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's helping them learn and get better as a healer. So perhaps it's the right place for people.
Okay. So we're now saying that Square Enix, for their game, is doing a good job with healers.
No, I'd say they're doing a decent job with the encounter design, I guess.
Okay.
I don't think the jobs are that great right now.
Okay.
Well, you think they're doing good with encounter design? I really like. Do you think these fights are like really like really intuitive?
I don't rate Leviathan.
Yeah.
But...
I don't know what they were thinking with Leviathan. But if any of you guys are watching from Square Enix, you guys need to fucking fix your shit.
Okay, there we go.
Whoever
shit.
the auto attacks, like there's no damage in that fight.
You never have to
It's
worry about
so
anything.
boring.
So
Yeah.
I'll let you know from my perspective, Leviathan is the easiest fight this tier. There's nothing easier. It maybe figuring out the puzzle was a little difficult, but the puzzle isn't that difficult to remember. So it's like, and there's not any variation to it at all. So once you do it the second time, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to enjoy it, I guess is the right word. It's very easy, mindless, just go through the motions. When I do E2S, I'm sweating my ass off, dude. I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's just from a tank perspective, but I'm actually concerned when I do E2S and I'm in a pug. There's so many things that can go wrong. Like, I move the boss and the DPS falls off the side because they forgot to hit their thing that stops them from falling off, right? You know, you have the healers who just weren't prepared for the big AoE hit that's about to happen. Or you have the tank, I mean, there's getting hit by little boys jumping or flying around, flapping around, right? There's so many things that could go wrong in that fight. I feel like it's actually one of the most well-designed second fights we've ever had. Would you guys agree with that, or no?
E2S is my favorite fight this tier, so yeah.
Okay.
I
really do like it. Like, I think I like the fight design a lot and the debating mechanics. It makes it, what I like about it is it makes it feel faster than it is, because it's actually a really slow fight that only has, you know, it only has stuff every 30 seconds. Like, it's really slow, but it makes you feel like it's fast. So of course, progging it, and doing it for the first couple times like feels overwhelming, but then once you farm it and you do a bunch, it's really slow. But I still like I think that it was a really good second fight in the tier encounter.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's an easy fight to just get caught off guard on. And in pugs, you get caught off guard all the time. I don't know, from your perspective, Ayesa, it'd be good to hear from your side if you thought E2S was well designed.
E2S, right? One of the reasons why it's so scary is that there's a trap for the scholar on that fight. So do you know the part where you have 3 flares, and then those 3 flares go off, and then you got 3 other people marked for flares?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so those sets of flares are 40 seconds apart, right? So you get Pug Scholar, the damage from the first flares happens, he casts Sucker, right?
Yeah.
And that's gonna time out like 5 to 10 seconds before the second set of flares go off.
Yeah.
And that puts him in a really crap position because overwriting your own shields is really difficult, unless you can like deploy an Adlo or something. But most people don't realize it because they see the shields, and then people go to their positions for the flares. Sucker drops off, boom, like 1 or 2 people die, and then it goes to shit. And like that's one of the reasons why it's really scary. And I don't think it's something that people pick up on.
I guess that's a really good question to ask overall, is from a healer perspective, how would you guys kind of rank the fights? Like, is the first fight a really good first fight for healers? No.
First fight is such a pain. Like the percentage-based damage. Percentage-based damage is awful to deal with as a healer.
Bad.
Okay. But I mean, it's challenging in a way, right? It's
annoying. Like I mean, you're a tank, right? So you must have died to the
hallowed ground, man. The first AoE is hallowed ground.
Or the AoEs and then like a couple autos just finish you
Yeah.
off. Like you, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not
an
fun to
insanity
deal
when
with
it's-
as a healer.
Yeah, it's not challenging. It's just annoying.
Okay. Okay.
What they should have done is they should have added that bleed mechanic into dimensional way earlier into the fight, so you had to actually deal with it, because that's probably one of the most intensive healing spots in like I've ever had to heal before. Like that bleed to dimensional is
Especially when no cooldowns are used, right?
That's
Oh.
yeah. I mean that's the best one. You know, when the party finder blames you for dying and they only have rampart
Yeah.
up.
Oh, that's a good sweep spot in Party Finder.
Yeah.
That's great.
So for healers getting introduced and they're not used to like actual challenging fights and raiding and stuff, E1S may be a little overtuned for new healers, you think?
No, I think it's fine because you get like because of the intermission halfway through the fight, you get all of your MP back. So
Yeah.
pretty much no matter what you use, you're gonna have full MP, you know, for the second half of the fight anyway.
Mhm.
Or well, the second maybe 2/3 if you're like if it's prog or whatever.
The only thing
Early
I think
on.
that's really overtuned in that fight is that blade into dimensional, because you have a buster before that, which, you know, it's kind of like a trap right now. Ayesa was talking about a trap for scholars. That's a trap for the tanks, right? Because there's a buster, right? So you're like, okay, let's mitigate this.
Mhm.
Then you have no mitigation for the bleed and auto attacks going into
Yeah.
dimensional, and you just eat shit.
Yeah.
That's
where invones come in play, man. Invols
Yeah, I mean,
aren't
if I'm
really
in
required.
PF,
Yeah.
I did involve in that. Yeah, like
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
All right, then you get into E2S. We kind of talked about that a little bit. It could be kind of trappy for healers. Is there anything else you wanted to throw in there for E2S?
That should have been the fight with double auto attacks. That would have made the fight pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because the busters in there actually hurt. Whereas like the Leviathan one, you invul on all of them or share the third one or whatever. It would make it a lot more interesting. But then the tanks would probably be like, the healers, please heal me, because you know they would die a lot because there's a lot of damage in that fight.
Mm-hmm. And again, I think that's really that whole fight's just forgetting things and not timing properly, and it's tough when you have people you don't really know playing with you, I think.
Yeah, that's the fight that teaches you that you need to memorize the script really.
Mhm.
And remember what happens in what order.
Well, it's also that something else could happen, because I can't tell you how many times I've been personally knocked off from the second hand that pops up later in the fight, because I'm like, oh, I'm fine, let me just move the boss over, and then I fly off of it. I don't know if other people have that issue, are used to when first going through your first iterations of it. But it's good to have that RNG where maybe you might have to do something and maybe you don't, right?
I would like
yeah,
that.
I like the
I think that'd be
randomness.
cool. Yeah.
Okay.
I think most players would say they want more RNG in this fight or in the game.
Mm-hmm.
At least healers would.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get into E3S, and the only RNG is what side he's going to start on before he shoots back and forth real quick. Right?
You have like who gets what debuff, like who gets the knockbacks and stuff. They need to pay
I
attention.
guess that's
Mhm.
true,
but
but it feels so simple.
yeah, it's really simple, that fight.
Yeah.
Annoying.
It's very, very predictable. It doesn't feel like there's really too much going on that I have to worry about. As a tank, I'm like, well, I guess I'll just randomly use my cooldowns throughout the fight, like my rampart and everything else, because there's no point. I'm just going to invuln most everything. And so what do? I just try to make some auto attacks hit less. And so it feels horrible on my end, but I don't know. Healing that, are there a lot of challenging parts to healing it?
E2? I think
Oh,
E2 's probably
four. Not four. No, three. E3.
Yeah,
Oh,
Leviathan,
we
yeah.
were talking about 3?
Yeah, we're
Oh,
Talking
skipped
about
two.
Leviathan, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Jeez,
I was about
Momo.
to
Welcome,
say
Momo.
Leviathan. I thought we were still
Let's
talking
talk
about,
about
like
Leviathan.
knockback. I was trying to think like knockback. Are we talking about Titan now, or what are we talking about?
No. Welcome back. No, Momo, in E3S, can you think of anything that's like kind of challenging as a healer in that fight?
Actually, yes. The
Okay.
double stacks in Tsunami 2 really fuck over PF. Like that's probably the most common source of death is those stacks.
Like them not being healed up all the way or shielded
It does
properly?
a lot of damage
Okay.
because PF does 3-4 stack and they have the tank go all the way north.
Yep.
So they have the cones. So like if they're under geared, it one shots them without shields. even with like a 10%, they will still die. They actually need like a sucker or like any kind of shield for that.
What's the
It's,
other strats of that? I only know the 3/4 strat.
There's 4/4 where you have the tank pop sprint and run as fast as you can, and then you have the tank LB strat, which is just tank LB.
Oh, okay.
That's the only strats I know.
The 4/4 is a little sketch. I think like that's what
Yeah.
we tried to do in
Yeah.
Prague, and it wiped us a bunch of times.
Hmm.
But yeah, having like a stack with 3 people in, it does a lot of damage. Like a lot of damage.
Okay. But that's really it. Can you think of any other parts? I mean, healing, maybe black smokers or something like that. Is that even remotely difficult after you kind of know it?
I think it's a little, in my opinion, it's underwhelming because
Mhm.
whenever at least my static found out that the flare did next to no damage, it was like, oh, okay, just take it up front.
Yeah, you just drop the flare on the party.
It's like it's so
Yeah.
underwhelming.
So, I mean, that is a good point. Do you even really need to run away for the flare?
I mean, you should have gear, so in Party Finder,
Wait,
should,
are
You
we
do
talking
need
about
to
the right
you do need
flare?
to mitigate it if you want to drop it on the party.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
So
So
both of them, Stormy Horizon and Black Smoker flares.
You would take the black smoker flares with the flare or with the stack?
Not with the stack. Keep them in the corner. and
Okay,
then
okay.
the
I was gonna
party-
say, I was like,
No,
you
yeah.
champ. I was like,
No,
how,
you
how
put
does
this.
that
You
work?
put the flare in the front corner instead of the back.
Oh, yeah,
oh, okay. So tank
that.
doesn't run all the way back. They just stay up
Yeah.
and they do damage. Okay.
Yeah, but even then, well, I don't know if it's just because I mainly play Scholar there, so I just save all my cooldowns except for deploy, which I use as Tsunami too.
Yeah. That's,
Okay.
I was like, whoa. Oh, that's a new one.
No.
Okay. Okay. And
Don't
then-
give him any ideas. He'll do it in PF.
Oh, hey,
He'll
it's
kill
fucked up.
Defina and Xanther with it.
Oh, jeez. I can see it. I can see Momo doing that to his group. Okay, guys, we're optimizing. We're learning. You know, that's part of it. Just deal. So then we get into E4S, which I have a little bit less experience overall with. But would you say I remember when it first came out and we were talking to everybody, they were saying there is one part where healers really have to be on point near the end, and that's it. Is that still really the case for it, or is there other challenging parts that you feel that they designed pretty well to make healers at least feel challenged?
No, just the end.
Really? I think the first part's really, really well designed.
Yeah.
I think the well, okay. If you play perfectly, the first phase probably isn't too bad, but
hmm
people get hit by those boulders. If they're not shielded after that crumbling down, they're probably going to die. So
Yeah.
like, I guess I don't know. I like the first phase. The second phase is boring, but
Hmm.
the first
I think the first phase
good.
is okay, but it's not like
Well, it's not
particularly
perfect.
stand out,
Yeah,
I guess,
yeah.
in terms of like having to be on point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you can get through it just by like sucker spam.
hmm
And I hope
Uh,
people are all doing the right thing, right? It's not really your responsibility to stop them from messing up the mechanic, maybe.
I mean, in Prague, I think that it's important that you kind of expect people to make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and if they die, then I would say that's. It depends how they die, right? If they die because it's a super slow AoE that goes out, I think it's like whatever. But if like in a greeting, but if they die, you could have had like a sucker up or adlo up or something on them, then I don't know. Maybe
Are you talking about the bomb dodge where you get like 2 to 1 or whatever?
Just in
and,
general,
like
I think
you can shield that and people live and
I think just in general, when you like Prague, I think it's safe to have like a sucker up at all times just to account for mistakes from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, that goes into our definition of what's a good healer is being able, again, go back to Prague and successfully Prague and support your group instead of just trying to be greedy and do damage,
Yeah,
right?
I really don't think that you can. Yeah, I think healing in Prague is probably the only thing that you could equate difficulty to.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole new style of healing.
Yeah.
Because you're accounting for other people's mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
I remember there was we were having trouble in one fight back in the day when I was running a static, and I told them not to do any damage at all and just heal and move. and just do all the mechanics the entire fight, so they learn all the mechanics, and then they can start adding in damage, right? And they can start figuring out ways to do it once they're confident with what they're supposed to do and they understand the fight properly. And I feel like that's lost. A lot of people prog with thinking, oh, I need to figure out how to do as much damage while learning the fight, and it's sad. Because, I mean, you only really do that when you're near the clear or enrage and end of it, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't stand around doing nothing. Like, you still push your filler spell or whatever. But I don't know. It depends, because like Savage prog at least is quite short. So at least from my perspective, since we're racing it, we don't really ever get to a point where it's like we need more damage and it's got to come from the healers. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think for the most part you can get through just by like playing safe and just, you know, not wasting time.
Right.
Like,
okay. And I feel like if there was some message I could send to everybody who's out there doing Party Finder and everything else, it's learn the fight, then optimize the fight. Right. It's.
But yeah, someone in chat points out it is because we do have good DPS players. So, you know, maybe if you're in PF trying to clear for the first time, whatever week one, like you're gonna have to do more. You're gonna have to optimize more.
It was a hard struggle in Party Finder week 2.
Well, the thing is, like, I'm gonna be honest. A lot of my clears in Party Finder, I felt fairly optimized for carrying a group. Like, I felt like I knew the mechanics pretty well by the end of it because of how many times I've had to do it with different groups, and then every single variation of me trying to improve myself. It feels like I was really good at the end of it because I'm always doing it over and over again because somebody is high or somebody's like drunk or something in the Party Finder, and we're just constantly dying. Once we figure that out, we kick them out, we get another person in, and we go through, and it's the same thing over and over and over again.
There's really good players, right? Like, there's really good players that are able to just, they see something and they know, right? Like, okay, I can get like 10 GCDs off before I have to move here. You know, and that's pretty much what like Ayesa's group is, right? They're players who they don't need to optimize to optimize, kind of thing, right? They optimize on the fly, you know, to the extent that they can. Obviously, I mean, there's strats and stuff, but like really good players are like that, where they see something and they're like, okay, I can get away with this, or I can't, kind of thing.
Right. And I want to clarify this. It's okay to be high, guys. You can do whatever you want. I don't care, but be functional. Is all I want to say. Is be functional. Don't come to raid non-functional and not able to try or do anything, and you're just like halfway there. Try. I guess it's that should be the slogan, right? Not don't do drugs and play the game. If you can be functional while you're doing drugs and playing the game, that's perfectly fine. Just don't be a non-functioning player.
You sound like you've had plenty of experiences here.
Yeah. Yeah. There are days when I log in and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to focus, log out, and I'm done for today. I'm responsible. I'm a responsible raider, guys. All right. So I guess let me try to pick one of these other topic points that we were hitting on here. Actually, yeah. So we did talk a lot about statics versus Party Finder. I think that really draws a line between different experiences in the game, because it's really boring when everybody knows everything, and it's a little bit more fun when you're doing clears or something else when not everybody knows what they're doing and you're having to think about other steps to make a victory happen. Do you guys enjoy being in a Party Finder or do you enjoy a static environment more, or is it just depends on the mood you're in?
For me, it depends on the mood I'm in. I'm very 50-50 when it comes to that. I value pugs a lot, and I actually do like playing in pugs, as frustrating as they make me a lot. I do enjoy pugging because I feel like I learn a lot from pugs, whether they're making a lot of mistakes or they're random really good pug. But I also like being a static just for the chill time, because then I can turn my brain off a lot more in a static whenever I'm, more exhausted, which is nice.
Less functional.
Yeah. So I don't have to pay attention as much. That's for sure. It's a lot nicer. So it's like, if I want to be more chill, static is great. if I want to like try to become a little bit of a better player, I feel like I learn a lot from Party Finder.
Okay.
It's like the number one thing. Like I tell people, like if you want to get better at healing, just play PF. You know,
Yeah,
that teaches you a lot.
it
Teaches you how to
it
react
definitely-
and stuff. So yeah.
Mhm.
Ayesa, I want to hear you talk.
Yeah, PF. I did some PF. No, I haven't done any PF recently.
That's all right.
I don't know. I don't enjoy PF mainly because I hate learning new strats.
You just like the strat that your group did to clear it, and you're good.
I mean, we usually have garbage strats, but like learning, having to remember like different positions and stuff. It's
Mhm.
hard from a peanut brain.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I go into a fight and I'm like, we're doing the same strategy everybody's doing, right? We're not having to change it up, and then they have west, north, south, and they have all these little abbreviations. It happens a lot or it happened. I don't know if it still does in E3S, and there's just so much stuff. I'm like, what the fuck is all this? I don't have to worry about it as a tank. I just go in there and do my invones and I'm good. But there's so many little things, and they sometimes want to change it around, and I don't understand why. But no, I'm with you.
Uptime.
That's
why.
Yep. All right. So I think that I would agree too that if you want to become a better player overall, not just as a healer too, Party Finder's great because you learn what you can do with all your different abilities. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you do with tanks or I guess DPS. You're always doing the same as DPS. You're just trying to hit the boss as much as possible, right?
Pretty much.
You do have some utility, but the utility on DPS is a lot lower than it used to be, right? Pretty small.
There's a PF strat that I think is really ironic, and it's the triangle strat in E2. And there's not now. I think it was more of an issue at the start because I mean I guess I haven't really done too much E2, but whenever I did E2 and or watch someone do E2, they would always have the healer go far, but for like a PF strat, that seems really fishy because a lot of the deaths comes from there only being one healer in the group. But if you did the triangle strat, you could keep both healers in the group, and just have the tanks and melee go far, and it'd be super safe.
Triangle strat. I'm trying to imagine.
Lose like what 1 or 2 GCDs doing that if you're a good player, you're playing properly. And for like easy safe clear, like that's why I see the most deaths during that triple flare plus stack or plus darkfire.
No, I see the most deaths from people being knocked off the side.
I mean, maybe.
So I mean, simple stuff is usually what kills people from what I've seen.
Yeah.
All right. So one thing that we did mention at the beginning, I guess this is a good point to start switching over to this, is that we discussed that the healer identity kind of seems to be going away. Would you guys all agree that there isn't a lot of identity to healers right now?
As a role or like the individual jobs within the healing role?
The individual jobs being different.
I think it's the lowest that it's ever been.
Okay.
I think there's some, but again, it's just like Ayesa said, it's the lowest it's ever been.
Okay, so I'm disappointed that we got all these Astra changes this expansion, and it still is like copy paste white mage, just with like a little gimmick to like each of the. Like you have pretty much all the same, like healing off globals. They're just like a bit more gimmicky. Like the horoscope is still the same as plenary, and then you have. What is it called? Celestial Intersection, which is your Divine Benison and whatever. Like that's a huge disappointment. I wish the job played differently and had like its own fundamental strengths and weaknesses. And about the only thing you can say for it is like Earthly Star. It's like that's different to what White Mage offers.
Because I remember back when they were having the discussions about healers, that they were upset that it was kind of like a shield and then a pure healing, and those were the two different things, right? But that's not, nothing changed with that, did it?
Yeah, nothing changed.
No.
It's literally the same thing. There's
no
just improvement.
They sort of bulked out the, like Scholars had its ability to like raw heal, bulked out quite a bit.
Mm.
Over the course of the last 2 expansions. Like it used to be pretty terrible, like in Heavensward, like you couldn't top people. Like you had Indom and you had an emergency tactic sucker like every, I can't remember the cooldown. I think it was like 45 seconds or something. Like the cooldown on emergency tactics used to be quite long. And now it's on like 15-second cooldown. You got like the soil heal and your fairy, can't remember the name of it right now. Like the fairy Indom.
Mm-hmm.
Whispering Dawn.
Like all these kind of things. Like you can carry pretty hard as like any healer job right now. Because you have so much in your kit. Fey Blessing, that's the one.
There we go. All right. So what could they do to really separate these jobs? Do they just give Astro more choices in their cards with buffs and everything else? Give white mages, I don't know, more back to just straight pure healing, and then give scholars more straight shield stuff? I mean, how do you make the identities actually really exist between the 3 healers?
I mean, I wish they'd just split them 2 and 2 and add the 4th healer.
Okay.
I don't know.
Have 2 shields, 2 pure heals.
I mean, Astro feels so confused. Like, I don't know. They can't balance this job with 2 secs. Like, they just can't.
It's hard, yeah.
So let's talk about Astro.
And they're gonna buff Nocturnal Sect again in 5.1, they've said. Which to me, I'm just expecting a Scholar buff in like 5.2 because they're gonna buff it, and if anyone plays it, they're just gonna buff Scholar. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been such a dance.
Go ahead, Momo.
We're gonna talk about the 4th healer.
No. I want to talk about. We can if you really want to.
No. I was just gonna say, even if they added a 4th healer, I don't really think much. Like it would still just be the same in a sense, right? Which is why, like, I don't know, like it would just be another copy paste job, because I really don't think they can really add a healer in this game that's different, because of just the way the fights are scripted and like how they're made.
But we all assumed that they were gonna add Dancer and it was gonna punch people to heal them. I mean, that was different, right?
I'm not sure if that would really work though. Like imagine a melee healer, right? That would probably feel really bad in some of these fights.
They could do it if they design it right.
I mean, it would imagine doing E2 and having to be in range to attack, and then you just having to get off the boss because there was no puddle for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. You'd have to be in a completely different puddle. But then you would go into your ranged set of rotation. You'd plan it out to where you're doing your ranged set of rotation, and then you're like, okay, now I'll go back and do my melee rotation while I'm over here that I've used my ranged rotation, right? It would just have you'd go back and forth in different rotations. It'd be half and half.
I mean, that aside, it would still be the same though. It would just be off GCD here, off GCD here. You'd have your standard physic, cure, benefic. You'd have your standard benefic 2, add low, cure 2, whatever whatever it would be. Helios, Medica, Sucker. Like it would just be, again, like homogenous. It's not like a tank too. Like tanks you can do something interesting with, kind of. Healers are really restricted by the content they make, and because of that, I really can't think of a healer that would work. Like some people said, like Disc Priest, right? I've never played WoW, but I've heard what they do, and I don't really think even that design would really work in here.
Well, I mean, scholars are supposed to be...
That's the only design I could think that would work in Final Fantasy 14, is doing damage to get healing, kind of. But then, Square Enix is like, should we really make a healer that does damage to get healing, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know what they would do.
Well, I mean, currently with the healers, it's... You're right, it is pretty much the same thing overall. And I really can't think of ways... because I'm not very creative, I suppose, of how they could make healers very different. Ayesa, can you think of any other way that they could really make healers different besides just the shield, the pure heal, and that's really it?
I mean, I don't mind having that distinction that you have one healer that focuses on mitigating damage and one that has more healing throughput. I don't have a problem with that. And I think that's inherently easier to balance because then you're only balancing one job against one other job, rather than our current situation where we have 3 healers that all need to compete for the same roles or whatever, and then Astro and plus White Mage is always kind of the black sheep combination that never really works. I mean, it works, but it's ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And they've tried supporting it for so long that I just don't think that they can make it work very well. And it's also meant that they've axed a lot of the identity of Scholar. Like I think it's the reason why, you know, Embrace is so weak now, and the pet actions are all on the all player off global cooldowns, so that the pet can't do stuff while you just broil. I think that things like that are concessions for Nocturnal Astra.
Yeah,
I think that's a good point. I mean, that's because they're trying to balance 3 healers. I mean, even if they added a 4th one, the identity would still, you know, be locked into something, right? Back in, someone made a really good Reddit post a long time ago. I have it saved somewhere, but
okay.
It was, I'm not going to get it, but
Yeah.
I remember it was like he was talking about how back in the Realm Reborn, all you had was White Mage and Scholar, right? So it was really easy to balance fight encounters around that. Now they have to balance fight encounters around all 3 healers and all 3 healers working. If they made healers that were kind of different from each other, then they would also be in a situation where you would be outcasting some in some fights, which me and Ayesa, we don't have problems with that. But for the casual community, or like, you know, the standard community, you know, that's probably not the healthiest design.
Yeah, for the one job players. And
well, that's the majority of the players.
Yeah, and that's me. I'm in that right now. But I mean, that's why they have to focus on this balance and homogenizing all these different roles. But I feel like there's different things, like they could give flavor to each one in their own way. I don't know if they need to really change core design. Again, the card system felt like it was a good flavor to give an identity over to Astro, and the fairy is supposed to be the good identity, I guess, for Scholar, and I guess White Mage. It heals. It's White Mage. I don't know what's its core identity besides just being the healer.
Probably GCD healing.
Yeah.
Okay. Big heals.
Pretty much.
Big raw healing.
Yeah. Good for prog.
Raw healing, raw damage.
And
that's White Mage.
I guess if they could emphasize the things that a healer needs through your pet, or emphasize the thing that your group need through a card system, or emphasize the thing that your group needs by pure power. If you could do that and put those requirements over into those parts, would that make those identities there for you and you'd be a little bit happier? Or would it just be too goofy and too hard to balance?
I miss all the little thrifty things that you could do with Astro. You know, maybe it's not optimal if you're not always fishing for your spread balance or whatever, you know, back in Stormblood. But I think Bach enjoyed this as well. But like, you know, if you're an Astro and you can spot a situation where a bowl is useful, or, you know, you can recover with recover mana with Ewer or something, like those little nuances gave the job some flavor. And I think that's all gone now.
Right.
Now you're just like a White Mage who has to work a lot harder because you got to be pulling cards, giving cards, pressing divination at the right time or whatever, just to keep pace with the raw damage numbers from White Mage.
Okay.
It's not even that. It's just the healing takes a lot more effort too. Like White Mage.
Yeah, the healing's more effort.
Pop Plenary, those are both like instant casts. You don't even have to plan them. With Astro, you know, you have to plan your Earthly Star. You have to plan your ED timings. You have to plan your Celestial Opposition timings, because those are all they're all
you have to
foresight in a sense, right? You need foresight to use them because they heal over time. You know, Earthly Star takes 10 seconds to proc, and CO is a regen.
Crystaahhl, I think you have the most experience maybe with Astro. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know, but I've been healing a lot on Astro the past like month. I mean, I only picked it up. I played it a little bit in Stormblood before the changes, so I'm very familiar with how it was in Stormblood. But I'm of the rare opinion that I actually do like the card changes. Now, I like how the cards were before, and I like how it can be, you know. I guess my thing is just like I like that there's less RNG to it, because a lot of RNG with the cards before I found it more frustrating than anything, that it didn't make me want to play Astro. I'm like, damn it, I can't get a spread balance. Like, fuck this class. Like,
right.
I was so frustrated with like all of the RNG that came with it. There was a lot of things that cool things that you could do with it on the flip side though. So I like that it's more simplified. However, if they would do something more with seals in the future, I think that would be better, because the seals are just for divination and it's just kind of whatever. So I agree that it's lackluster now, but I also do like the amount of RNG that it had before just was super frustrating.
Well,
I think the consistency of having your divination every 2 minutes is a really good thing for Astra.
Yeah.
All the cards doing the same thing, maybe not so much. So I wish we had something between the two systems where you still had your unique card identity.
Well, so I guess
perhaps divination requiring you to like use a damage buff card, use like a support card, or I don't know, something else. Like if you had 3 sort of suits that you needed to play every 2 minutes, like that would be interesting. Like looking for a point where you had to use like a bowl or something to mitigate every couple minutes just to get your seal for divination would be kind of interesting.
Can you guys hear my dogs in the background, by the way?
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Twitch does not pick it up. The OBS doesn't pick it up because I have that noise gate, so only you guys hear it. So sorry, unless if I start talking.
Good.
Yeah, they're crazy. I was actually thinking about it, and the RNG thing is the thing that we're trying to fix, and they obviously fixed it because there's not really any RNG anymore. But I think the better way that people would hope they would fix it is that RNG did exist, and you had a variable that you had to work with and put it in the right place, but every single time the effect was just as good as if you got something else. It's just different, right? And you have to make the right choice. And maybe you're like, well, this isn't going to be good now, let me kill it and get some other good effect on that I can temporarily use until I get something else that happens. Every single effect that you draw, you would have to have something that you didn't feel bad that you drew. And that's tough. That's really tough when everybody wants to just do damage, and it's way more powerful than putting up a bowl for when there's no tank buster, right?
Yeah, and especially like whenever people would parse in Stormblood, it would just be, it could be the difference between an Astro just pulling out an extra spread balance, and that's frustrating.
Who said consistency earlier? Because I think that's a really good way to sum up.
Yes, I think, right?
What's happening with everything, like healers in general. There's a lack of consistency. It really feels like that card system before was really good from like a standpoint of just like every player, right? Like it was fun to do, like in raid, outside of raid, if you're doing casual content, whatever. But the change they did to it makes it feel like it was only made for people who optimize, which is kind of weird. And it's the same way with Astro's everything, right? If you look at the consistency, like how they balance jobs, like ranged are lower because they're easier. Black Mage is, the highest DPS because it's, quote unquote hard. Takes more effort to optimize, whatever. But that doesn't follow with the healers. Why isn't, if that's the case, then Astro is more punishing to die, requires more brain work for healing, more brain work for cards, yet it's a couple hundred DPS below White Mage and Scholar. So why isn't Astro, up there as the highest raid DPS healer? Even like in a really good group, they still can't break that, that barrier.
Are they not providing that extra DPS for the rest of their group that the other ones don't? That it just doesn't make up for it with the balance?
It's not enough right now.
Oh yeah, the raid DPS isn't enough, even with a good group.
Okay. Huh. So
like Astro is the least played healer, like in terms of like parsers that get uploaded to FF logs right now by a significant margin.
I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
I like to think of Astros, like the healer balance, or just balance in general, as like a totem pole, right?
Mhm.
You have the top of the totem pole, which is like the best of the best groups, right? So let's say Astros doing 9,500 raid DPS at the top of the top best groups, while Mage is doing 10,000. Now that value is only going to get lower and lower, and it's going to drop drastically the lower you go down the totem pole, right? So now you're at the best of the best, 2,500 raid DPS from Astro, or sorry, 9,500 DPS from Astro, 10,000 from White Mage. You get to like the gray, 25 percentile. Now you're doing like, let's say 7,000 DPS as an Astro, but now your White Mage is still at 10,000 because the White Mage doesn't suffer from a bad group. An Astro does.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot.
All right. Let me see. So you guys think that they just need to kind of buff the potency overall, or the way that it does damage, or adds extra damage for their group? Maybe make the cards a little bit more buffed damage wise, or should there be something else that fixes Astro right now?
I mean, you just have to balance for the lowest common denominator if you want raid buffs to work. But then you get into a point where raid buffs are too strong, so it's like really hard. Like the perfect balance scenario to me is like jobs like Black Mage, Samurai. Those jobs excel in Party Finder or uncoordinated groups, and jobs like Astro, Ninja, jobs that bring buffs, they excel in coordinated groups like statics and stuff. That's probably like the ideal balance you can get. It's probably not going to be a better balance than that, but like it's just jobs in general, just like raid buff jobs, they take more effort to optimize. Well, if you don't get that satisfaction, then it's
yeah. I think that the cards are in a good spot. Like they don't need a buff or do more, because like Lady and Lord is 6% already. That's fine.
Okay.
But I think Square Enix doesn't nerf though, but like theoretically, I think that White Mage and Scholar should be brought down so they're not beating tanks. I mean, Astro does too, top Astro parsers do too, but like I think that would be the better option.
Okay. It's kind of weird that my DPS is less vital to the group than a healer's DPS could be as a tank, and all I have to do is press a cooldown every once in a while. That's really, really different when healers are trying to keep their entire party alive, and our DPS can be more valuable overall than my DPS to the group. A little strange. But
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just kind of backtrack a little bit one more time. It's just like because I said you balance for the lowest common denominator, I meant it like in a way that like some groups you're going to find Astros being locked out, and that's because in a Party Finder group, right? It was the same back with Ninja, right? Ninja and before 5.08 was being locked out. I saw quite a few parties of both these two jobs being locked out. Is because the totem pole analogy, right? The lower you get, the less value both these two jobs have, especially these two jobs, because these two jobs, and Dancer too. Both these three jobs get massive amount of raid DPS from their party, and their personal DPS is low because of it. And because of that, people are locking them out. And if they don't balance for the average player, then this is always going to happen, kind of thing.
I was thinking about it. I had a whole conversation in my head while you were saying that too. I was thinking, all right, well, if they lock out Astro, then they're just never going to get anyone to fill the role. But wait a minute. No one's playing Astro, so they're just it doesn't matter. They're just locking out the people who are still playing Astro.
I mean, you could argue that there are some people who switched to White Mage or Scholar because Astro was getting locked out of Party Finder. I mean, I'm sure there were some people like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, of course, when we talk in terms of really high tier players, they're only going to play whatever is the best anyways. So Astro's just not going to get played. If they're playing all three jobs, they're just going to pick whichever one they think is going to be best.
Yeah, like why go Astro, right? You die, you lose Divination, you lose like, a quarter of your raid DPS when you die. You die, you lose MP. A White Mage dies, they get back up, they have Thin Air, they have a size that, something goes wrong, you have Thin Air, to raise. You have Prince of Mind to raise. That's really good. I think people undervalue that. Like,
I mean,
there's just like no reason to bring an Astro
Yeah.
for Prague and stuff because of that.
And when-
if you're sorry.
No, I was just going to say, to add to it, you're right. Why do these things? And so the people that have a reason why they want to play is because they want to play Astro, and so you're left with just the people who want to play Astro. You're not playing with the person who just wants to be a good healer. You're playing with the person who wants to be an Astro. And so I can see where it really comes out to play. Because, I mean, there are people who want to play Astro and they want to be a good Astro and they want to just do well with it because they just like Astro a lot and they want to do really well. Like Crystaahhl, right? Yeah, absolutely. But a lot of it's just really people who just only want to play Astro because they like the cards and they like the LB when they use it. It looks really cool. So,
to be fair, the main reason why I want to play Astro is because I feel I like a challenge. And the more I play White Mage Scholar, I've been getting a little bit more bored the more I play it. Whenever I pug, it's not bad, like I said before. But with Astro, it's like always challenging. And I'm a person that doesn't need to have the reward of a good parse at the end. Like I don't really look at my FF logs. If I do, I look at my HPS because I care more about making sure I don't chad my other healer. I care about that. But yeah, so like, because I'm not a person that cares about my parse and doing like orange consistent, like I'm a consistent purple. That's good enough for me. Like I know I'm good enough for a team, and that's all that really matters. But it's terms like I like playing Astro because it's challenging. There's a lot going on with it.
Yeah. Okay.
And especially in pugs when Party Finder and like they die all the time and everything's really unexpected. It's like it's tough, and I like that. So basically, I just
masochistic.
Yeah, I'm masochist, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I got you. I did, of course, I'm going to get the jab because of what I just said because I only play Paladin at the moment. But I guess that really does go into a whole nother conversation about why we play these jobs and why people make these decisions. And originally, I hated Paladin when I first started tanking. I was like, this is the stupid, easy baby job. Why would I play this? And this is back in a Realm Reborn. And I was playing Warrior, and no one wanted Warrior because they're like, oh, Paladins are so great. Whatever. So I was playing Warrior, and I had to get forced into that position, and I kind of went with Paladin as my tank from then on. But I like the idea of what Paladin could be. I guess that's one of the reasons why I play it, because they're very... I like utility. I think that's amazing. And Paladin would probably, I would say, be the top in utility, or the idea of Paladin would be the top in utility. So I guess I can't criticize too much for that, because we do have to accommodate for people like Frosty, right?
Wait, so you wanted to play Warrior in a Realm Reborn, and then in Heavensward you were set on sticking to Paladin.
You know why? Because so in the end of a Realm Reborn, I was or well, let's just say the middle. Okay, we were doing T9, and we were doing that fight. I played Warrior. You could solo tank T9, I think, right? Remember, it was so long ago. So I did that, but once we needed to have a tank to fill the role, we only had another tank that could only play Warrior. So I went to Paladin. That's why I started with Paladin, because I had to go into that. Then when we went into Heavensward, I was like, I'm going to play Machinist. So I play Machinist in the first tier. The next tier I played Scholar.
You were playing Machinist
Yeah. And Midas was Scholar. That was some dark days. And then, I don't know how much my group hated me for that, but then I went Paladin for the next one, Creator, because I again was tanking with another Warrior, and he wasn't able. He just didn't have the time. I would rather play with him than not play with him. So we had a Paladin Warrior, and we just made it through. Because I guess I could have went Dark Knight, but then I would have had to go back and level it up. I guess after changing all these jobs all the time, I was just like, fuck it. So I did Paladin, and we toughed our way through Creator. And then since then, I've just been Paladin the entire time because it grew on me. And I liked it. And I also liked being Orange Parse as Paladin in A12 because no one else played Paladin. And so like I had no competition for being at the top of the leaderboard. So it felt good in that way. But yeah, no. It's weird. I guess if we went back to those days where Paladin was completely underpowered and no one really liked it anymore, I'd still be playing Paladin if I felt like it wasn't going to stop me from getting a clear. So I guess that's the same way some Astros may be feeling right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Question
I
for
agree
you
that-
though,
that
as a
Astro is-
paladin, do you get frustrated? You said you pug, right? Mainly.
Yeah.
Do you get frustrated whenever a healer doesn't pop your veil? Do you feel useless?
You know, I understand. I understand because I mean
suppose
I
the
pop
tank
it,
perspective.
and I know that they're not paying attention most of the time to everyone's buffs and what's happening. What I do is I predict. I'm like, they have to fucking heal me with a heal here. There's no way they cannot pop it. That's what it's my goal, to try to predict what they're going to do and make it work. So I'm not mad at them. If it doesn't pop, it's partly my fault because I just timed it incorrectly from when they would automatically heal me anyways.
That's fair.
We'll pop it if we need it.
Yeah, I was gonna
that's
say,
not your fault.
Like we
I
know
never
it's there. We
missed
can
it.
see it too.
You guys
Yeah.
know it is.
Yeah,
Pugs
we can
don't.
see it. Like we're
Veil.
looking at.
I just
we
choose not
see
to
that
proc
buff.
it.
So you guys, you're telling me you intentionally see the buff and you're like, I really don't need it. You
Yeah,
just
I mean,
fucking
Yeah.
I literally, if I'm like, we don't need it, I don't proc it.
okay.
That's a pretty bad design flaw with the veil.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
they didn't think of that because back, you had embrace, you could control. I mean, I'm sure they didn't think of that either.
Mhm.
But nothing procs it that's free anymore. So we have to manually use a GCD on you to
Mhm.
proc that veil with like an AoE heal or something.
Mhm.
And sometimes it lines up, and sometimes it doesn't. So if we need the veil, then we'll just pop a, here, have a physic, here, have an adlo. Hey, you know what? Double value. I'm like adlo you, then I'm gonna deploy the adlo. Plus, we got the veil too.
Yeah.
Bonus
well,
value.
you know what? Sometimes I like to just make it pop because I know it will pop even if you don't need it. I know if I put it on at this point, you're going to heal me and it's going to pop automatically and it'll just fade away eventually. But I got it to work and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
But, if we went back to that and we talked about Paladin, Clemency really should be an off-global, and Clemency should be something that takes mana, but you have enough mana gain to where you could probably find spots where you could put it in and not kill your rotation. If they did that, Clemency would be in a better spot. Right now, it's just pointless, right?
That would actually, because you get what? I remember I was talking to someone about this a while ago and asked how much mana you get in 60 seconds. And I think they said 13,000 mana every 60 seconds. So that would, technically be a free clemency every 60 seconds, which would actually add up to the same as like an equilibrium or something.
Mm-hmm. So if they just made it to where you could do it without killing your DPS, then sure, I feel like it would be good.
But then it would also be classified as an ability, which wouldn't proc Divine Veil, so the problem still persists.
Yeah.
They should change that too. All right, I guess we get off tanks here for a second and start talking about healers again. The one thing I have heard, we'll go to White Mage a little bit because I feel like we need to hit this because actually I presented this to Momo and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I'm going to actually ask this question to Ayesa. People are saying that White Mage is overpowered and super strong right now. Ayesa, would you agree with that as a scholar?
So the reason why people think White Mage is strong is because it has such a high output for the lowest effort of all healers. So it's really easy to look good on the job because the job is simple and it's also quite selfish by design. And so when you're healing with another healer, you're likely to get high DPS uptime like by default because Glare is just more potency than what the other healers can do. And Astro has, free weaving opportunities all the time with Malefic. And Scholar can use Rune too, right? If they need to do some healing. So you're in a position where you can basically just chad the other healers and they'll accept it.
Okay.
Because you're the White Mage who does the most damage. And so I think people think it's overpowered because you're just in that position by default of doing the most damage out of all the healers.
Okay.
And you don't really have to put much thought or effort into it like with Astro. You don't have to be managing cards while doing everything else on the fly.
So does that mean, going back to a couple things you said before, that White Mages are basically just mostly focusing on doing damage and they only help healing, and then the other healers focus on the main healing and do damage when they can, because it does, cost, if you heal, you kind of hurt how much damage you can do, right?
The opportunity of the opportunity cost of healing on White Mage is pretty bad compared to the other healers. Like they lose quite a lot. That's what I mean when I say their job is selfishly designed.
Okay.
Just because they don't have weave opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you had to cast regen more, like if there were actual tank damage in this game, if there were autos that like did damage and happened with any degree of frequency, then you'd use your regen and you'd have some off global space. But at the moment it's like your Afflatus heals and your dot refresh every 30 seconds. Other than that, you're clipping to use something.
Okay.
Which just feels bad.
Momo, would you kind of agree with all that?
Yeah, it's a dangerous ground because lilies, if used properly, where you get a misery under like raid buffs, it's technically, it's assuming you get the misery, it's technically less potency than using like a rune 2 3 times to heal, but you would need something to heal with those lilies. So you have one size, which is one lily, right? So that means you have to do before your 2 minute, you have to do one lily, which is the equivalent of X potency. It depends how many raid buffs you have. But I think the standard is 75 with no raid buffs per weave. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty sure it's 75.
I have to shake my head. Yes, I agree with you.
So that value decreases the more raid buffs you have when you use that misery at 2 minutes. It's something that we talked about in E1 because there's some tech you can do where you get 2 misery on the ads, but that's irrelevant to the conversation.
Okay, yeah.
But I agree. Yeah, it's yeah, pretty much I agree.
Okay. Fair. No. All right. So we'll probably get into questions in a little bit here. There's a couple other questions I wanted to ask, and one, of course, is going into Scholar and talking about it. Do you feel? All right, Momo, just go. Momo, just go.
No. I was just making a noise because I know this is a dangerous topic for.
Why is it dangerous? Why? Yeah. So why is this a dangerous topic?
There's nothing dangerous here. I don't know what he's talking about.
Tell me your problems with Scholar at the moment, Ayesa.
Okay, where do I start? Okay, I want to start with the pet because like.
Okay.
They have this history with the pet where they'll do it. They don't change it very often, but when they do, they'll do something good, and then they'll just do something completely stupid at the same time, which makes it feel like we're going backwards. And so, with this expansion, they decided to embrace instant cast, so it doesn't really matter if the fairy's following you around too much anymore. Where it used to be like you were definitely losing a lot of embraces if your pet wasn't stationary. And they also made it so the pet doesn't take damage anymore. That's great.
Yeah.
They were kind of moving in that direction anyway. Since Heavensward, they made it so like most AoEs don't hit the pet and things like that. So, but EOS being completely immune to damage, whatever, that's amazing as well. But then they hit us with the other thing, which is that all these pet abilities, which they fixed in Stormblood so that they were super smooth, they queued properly, and the pet would use them instantly. She didn't interrupt her own embrace to use whatever you asked her to. They took that system and replaced it with something that's god awful, where you now issue the command to the pet with an off global. Then she thinks about it, and then she uses it. And the problem is, I'm a peanut brain, but EOS's brain is like even smaller.
Okay. It's a used peanut. It's like a peanut shell on the ground.
Sometimes she forgets, and she'll just ghost. One of your abilities will just ghost. Yeah. Because she's decided she needs to move across the room or something. Your fairy tether's ended and she needs to move across the room, so she'll just ghost your command to Whispering Dawn. So it'll go on cooldown and she won't use it because they're now independent abilities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right? So as soon as you issue the command, the cooldown starts. But that doesn't matter whether or not she uses it. So
no, that make I didn't know that was happening because I didn't read up on
it's
that.
worse. It's
okay,
worse
so the
than that.
worst part of this is right when
Okay.
you involve Seraph,
Yeah.
because if you issue commands to Seraph, right, when Seraph's about to disappear, they just disappear into the void and they're wasted. So you can't tell Seraph to do anything within the last 2 seconds of its duration,
It's kind
which is really annoying, right? Because the entire purpose of Seraph is it gives you 2 free AoE heals, which also shields. So it gives you 2 free suckers basically when it's active. So you position it so that you're covering 2 AoEs, and then what's the one thing you want to do after you've just been hit twice by AoE damage? You want to hit Whispering Dawn, right? But if you do that in the last 2 seconds, it's just gone. Like you've lost your Whispering Dawn. It disappears. Like Seraph goes away mid-animation and it's lost, right?
Dude, you gotta be fair, dude. Like if I'm at work and someone comes up to me, it's like the last 30 minutes, last hour I'm at work, and they're like, hey, this is something I'd like you to do. I'd be like, sounds good for tomorrow. And then I'll think about it and then go home and then I can work on it the next day. So when you resummon her, she's thinking about it and she might have the ability to do it then. You just gotta do it at the beginning. If you do it near the end, she's already halfway home. Dude, she's already ready.
Yeah, I mean, Seraph's pretty much halfway home after you've used that second constellation.
Yep.
Really frustrating.
Let me add on to this work. There's so aside from the Seraph thing, there's also something that happens when you weave Fey Union and another skill. So like if you weave Fey Union and Fey Blessing, or Fey Union and Fey Illumination, the fairy has a chance to ghost the Fey Blessing Illumination and just put on a tether. And it's vice versa, right? You could do Fey Blessing and Fey Union, and sometimes the Union tether won't attach, even though you'll see, because when you double weave 2 fairy abilities, the fairy gets a buff called Summon Order with the number insinuating the buff, whatever. And then sometimes the buff will just disappear and she won't attach the tether. Same thing with Fey Illumination. If you weave Illumination and then Fey Union right afterwards, sometimes the tether won't attach. And sometimes if you just do Fey Union, it won't attach. And it's really irritating, especially when like you're optimizing, when that doesn't, like, that goes wrong. So like it ended up being to a point where the last thing you do is you optimize Fey Union, right? Because it's so inconsistent, and when you're speedrunning and stuff, you don't really want those inconsistencies there. And then there's a pretty good meme where I have a clip of it. Let me get it real quick. If you walk backwards with your fairy out and you use an ability, it'll chase after you without using it. Let me see if I can put it in chat. Here we go.
Oh, are you gonna get banned? Hold on.
No. It's on.
Oh, you mean here? Okay.
What the heck?
Yeah. And basically means you can put your ability on cooldown but not use it yet by just constantly walking backwards. And you can actually do this trick in E1 and E4, I think. Yeah, E4 during the downtime. I think the who discovered it first? Was it, I think it was Tobio, I think. I don't know. Somebody.
I had this happen on E1.
Oh yeah,
I
it
told
was
you about it.
Yeah.
Happened by accident, right? I hit Whispering Dawn right before the transition where you get locked for 60 seconds or whatever. And when the transition finished, she actually cast it when she came back. So by this time, like the cooldown on Whispering Dawn was at like 20 seconds, and she just threw it out. So you can do back to back just by if you manage to figure out how to do that consistently. I hadn't heard about the walk backwards thing though.
Oh yeah,
cool.
it's yeah. I do
played
it in
Legacy, so I can't have that.
You can do it during Titan during the downtime when he transitions. You just walk around the arena like a buffoon.
What the heck?
That's kind of weird. Like, I actually. So, are you reporting a bug? Is that what we're doing right now?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know if you can consider it a bug because, I mean, seems like Square Enix doesn't really care about fixing these kind of bugs.
Okay.
Oh, they fixed the dissipation thing really quick. When you could
was it quick? I thought it was like for months.
It was quick for them. I think it was only like a couple weeks or something. Maybe like 3 weeks.
Square Enix
But
is
of
never
people
gonna...
like using it all the time. Like when it became popular, they fixed it pretty quick. When people were dissipating with their fairies still out.
That's pretty
in,
huge though. Yeah, this one's like more
in
like
Heavensward.
Mhm.
there's not really much practicality to it aside from like a few things, but like even like an E1, right? You probably want to do the back-to-back whisper. I mean, I guess it actually could be pretty decent actually. That's like the only like in Titan you want to do it because there's just no need to, right? The
Anyway, the whole point is
Yeah.
that this system's terrible. And
No,
we should
yeah.
go back.
Yeah.
We should go back to the pet, like being able to issue commands to your pet while you're doing something else,
Okay.
and her just using them. Like that was such a good system. Why change it?
yeah, it was really good.
So it feels, because I was under assumption that they were making changes that would make the pet system better going into Shadowbringers, and we're all kind of excited for that. I guess I never heard the result of it being other dog shit.
It's super clunky and like it's horrible to play summoner now as well because you have to spam Eggy Assault all the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else besides pet? We were just talking about
Okay.
pet only.
Yeah, so the pet ramp was necessary, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is like a lesser thing, but I really want them to actually buff dissipation because it feels really weak right now. So
Okay.
the other healers, right? They've taken largesse away from us as a role action, but White Mage and Astro had it baked into their level 80 capstone abilities, so they have a healing potency bonus, right? That they can activate on neutral sect and temperance. But Scholar's still got theirs on dissipation, which is a 3-minute cooldown that takes away your fairy, gives you the healing potency buff and full ether flow, but if you use any of the ether flow while the fairy's gone, you don't gain any gauge, which feels really awful for a 3-minute cooldown. And so I want them to just give the gauge back and possibly make it a 2-minute cooldown.
Okay.
It still feels incredibly underwhelming after all these years. Like dissipation's always just felt garbage.
Oh man, dude, dissipation optimization as a 2-minute cooldown. That'd be oof.
One or
Every
the
2-minute
other.
burst.
Like one or the other.
Okay. Momo, do you have anything else you want to throw in about Scholars?
Scholars.
Yeah.
Yo, I haven't even started complaining about DPS yet.
Yeah.
So like,
all right.
I was joking with Frosty before the show that I was thinking about recording a clip to use in the intro, which is just me in a dungeon setting, pressing Art of War 12 times in a row, waiting for a pack to die, because that is the Scholar dungeon experience in Shadowbringers.
Hey,
You get
man.
one button to use on trash, and you better like it because otherwise you're gonna have to find some paint that's drying on the wall or something to keep yourself amused.
Oh my oof.
Damn.
I mean, that's what a lot of dungeon runs really turn into, right? I mean, it's pressing 1 or 2 buttons constantly through every single pack.
Yeah,
pulling wall to wall.
so I come from the perspective of having played Heavensward Scholar, and like if you haven't played that, you don't really know
Heavensward
what
Scholar
used to be able to do. But it was really fun in dungeons. Like you were another DPS. Like you had basically a budget summoner rotation where you had 3 dots that you could spread.
Mm-hmm.
You had Miasma 2 still that you could use on larger packs. You had a Shadow Flare that had no cooldown, just a 3-second cast time. So you could always have a Shadow Flare down. And then on top of that, you could spam Blizzard 2 cross-class from Thaumaturge.
I remember.
What?
Yeah. I
Oh my
remember Blizzard
God.
too.
So you still had a filler spell in Blizzard 2 once you'd done everything else. And so there was a lot you could do in Scholar to amuse yourself in those groups where the DPS was sort of underperforming, and like you get to have all this fun spreading your dots everywhere.
I had 3 to 6 months of experiencing that in Heavensward.
It was actually pretty fun, and now
yeah.
you go in and you get one button to push, and you know when the DPS are not using their AOE abilities and stuff's taking forever to die, it really feels like a chore.
Yeah, Scholars were overpowered with that though, man. That was way. It was so much better than every other healer in a dungeon. Like you just
White
walked
Mage.
over.
Well, no, White Mage was still good with Holy and Arrow 3 and a size. Like White Mage was still pretty good in dungeons, but
Did they
Scholar
have
did
Arrow
get to the
3 and
point where
Heavensward?
like, pardon?
Did they have Arrow 3 and Heavensward? I can't remember.
Yes.
It's so okay. All right.
So White Mage was pretty good. Scholar just got a bit ridiculous because like once you got enough gear, the fairy could essentially solo heal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it had like better scaling, but White Mage was still really good in Heavensward, and Astro has always been terrible in dungeons, so we don't.
Yeah.
Talk about Astro in dungeons.
Well, now I mean, like, you know, how are Astro in dungeon now? Crystaahhl, how's Astro in dungeons?
It's the same as in raids where it's like a lot of work compared to White Mage Scholar.
Yeah.
It's just an insane amount of work.
Well, I mean, Scholar is Art of War, right?
Yeah.
It's one.
When I Astro in dungeons, like I'm switching between sex like every other pull, trying to put shields on pre-pull,
Yeah.
like a region pre-pull. Like it takes so much more work to like
To be an effective Astro
to be
in
effective.
dungeon, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the hardest healer to level as well, like the most frustrating to level because the good stuff is backloaded on like level 78 and 80, where you get your second charge of essential dignity and you get your neutral sect and stuff. Like it's actually pretty frustrating to level.
Home Monster is awful on Astro. It's actually awful.
Hmm. All right. Well, that sucks.
Yep.
All right. So I agree, though. I mean, Scholar was really fun, and I feel like that was like the height of DPS healing in dungeons and everything else. Doing the AoE stuff was. It felt good to see stuff melt and be a healer at the same time. But not really, I guess, there as much anymore as it was there before. What other things do you have? Well, Ayesa, I'm going to let you keep going on this. Is it?
I'll just say like the reason I liked it so much is because there was that sort of there was more you could do as you got more gear and as you got more proficient as a healer. Like you could use more and more of your kit on a regular basis to do DPS, and that's what was good. I think there was like a clear road for improvement for people. Whereas now, like if healers come to you and they're like, "Oh, my DPS is low. What am I doing wrong?" And it's just that like they have one button they're not pushing, but it's not like clear enough to them that their uptime, like casting broil or whatever, is not up to par.
Doesn't
Whereas
that feel
before
bad?
it's like you had like 4 dots and a shadow flare, and like those could be up, and like you know, it is obvious if they're not up, like, oh, my dots could be up, you know, I'm not doing enough, or I could be doing this. And it was just a clearer road for improvement, I think, than, oh, well, you're not casting 120 broils, you're only casting 30, there you go, cast another 90 broils.
What it really is that Square Enix is just, they hate guide makers. You know, they're trying to put them out of a job. Well, I remember, you know, used to have guides for like everything out there, like dungeons, all kinds of things. Now it's just like, what's the point of doing a guide for anything outside of Savage? Even with like jobs and stuff and everything else, it just seems kind of.
I wanted to do a Scholar guide this expansion, but I completely lost motivation when I saw this day of the job.
It's pretty
Sorry,
bad,
guys.
All right. Do you feel good at least getting what you need it to out, Spencer? Do you want to get some more
I think
out?
those are the main things about Scholar.
Yeah, was it my turn?
Maybe we should talk about other healers. Like, I don't know.
We talked about the other
Like,
two.
this has been my rant section, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Momo, did you have more that you wanted to put out?
Still think Soil is overpowered for what it is.
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, Sacred Soil is really, really stupid now.
Okay.
Way too strong.
Most people don't stand in it, right?
I mean, it's big though.
It's so big.
Yeah, this is
is
pretty
pretty
true. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
the
you
only
thought
thing.
Asylum was bad, and you just like throw it on a Soil, it's like double the radius, easy.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that Stormblood Scholar was probably, I don't know, maybe it was too hard, but I think it's probably like the perfect balance. Like you still had 2 dots, you know, you had your off GCD still, and you had your, it wasn't Heavensward Scholar, but I think it was still fun enough to optimize and stuff because you still had 2 EDs in Trick, Miasma 2 for 6 GCD in Trick or 5th GCD, depending on where you landed Trick. There's a lot of cool stuff you could do on Stormblood Scholar.
Mm-hmm.
But
Stormblood Scholar also had the idea that like your MP is a damage resource with Miasma too.
Yeah. But if they got rid of that MP cap on Miasma 2, I think it would have been probably pretty casual friendly, as well as like having like a decent ceiling for healing. And I also think the Stormblood Scholar was probably the perfect iteration of Scholar healing. It wasn't like super strong, but it wasn't also like super weak. And Dissipation felt like it had actual use with the addition of Excog. Like back in Heavensward, I felt like Dissipation was just like it was like a lustrate tool, right? Like it wasn't really as strong. But
lustrate or like death recovery.
Yeah,
because summon used to like cost a lot of MP and things like that when you got up.
Yeah, it was like 8 seconds too. So like you really didn't want to
cast, really.
Yeah.
Otherwise you were without a fairy.
Yeah, there's like what was it? So if you had current dissipation, I think that Stormblood Scholar probably would have been like the perfect healer in terms of things. I'm not sure about Quick and Data Flow. It felt nice, but if you had ED dissipation, like current dissipation and Quick and Data Flow, you would be in hell. It would be hard.
Quick and Data Flow and dissipation didn't really work too well together. Like you were usually it was hard to use so many stacks in such a short amount of time.
You had like 20 seconds to dump 6 Aether Flow stacks, and each ED had a 3 second cast time. So like every other GCD was like blocked because you couldn't use it. So like if you weaved ED in the later half of your GCD, you couldn't use it on your next GCD weave. So it was like a stopgap on it. It was pretty annoying.
We good on Scholar, you guys think?
Do we talk too much?
No, it's okay.
I think Scholar's probably the one with the most issues, though. I mean, okay. Astro. I think people shit on Astro, but Astro it's probably the best healer in terms of efficiency if you play it right. Like it has really good heals.
Okay.
It's just.
I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, you have Earthly Star every 60 seconds, CO every 60 seconds, CI every 30 seconds, ED every 40 seconds, and you start with 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's not you also have more. You have more room with ED too now. Back before, you only had 1, right? It was on a cooldown. Now you can like use ED, and then you have like another 40 seconds before you cap again. So it's more. What's the word?
I'm gonna let you figure it out, Momo.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just thinking of other stuff. That's
no.
the word I'm trying to think of.
Oh yeah, I was gonna let you do that. Yeah, it's okay.
Scholar's the healer that lost the most actions coming into Shadowbringers, so that's probably why we're the saltiest.
That's fair.
Like we lost a lot of stuff, so.
Well, I mean, you didn't lose your raid spot.
Nope.
Oh.
No, I think that's pretty difficult. I mean, I tried to play Knocked Astro and at the start of Stormblood. Like I made it work. But yeah, since then I've been back on Scholar, so.
Okay. All right.
Okay, there is one thing though, like not about Scholar, no. It's just that like when we were talking about Miasma 2, right? Which got onto the subject of MP.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Shadowbringers, the MP system's been reworked, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're capped at 10,000 MP, and Piety no longer increases your maximum. It just affects the amount of MP you regenerate, which it did before anyway, because your passive MP regeneration was a percentage of your maximum MP. So like it's always affected the amount you regenerate. But anyway, the reason I want to talk about it is because Piety feels like such a garbage stat now in this expansion.
Oh yeah.
So to go with these changes to the MP system, they rebalanced a lot of the MP costs and made them consistent across all levels.
Mhm.
So you no longer have the scaling MP cost. And the biggest change in this was that most of like the filler spells, like the DPS spells, all got like a relative cost reduction compared to what they used to cost before. So it's like 20% cheaper now to just broil than it used to be. And Piety wasn't really a great stat in Stormblood to begin with, but now we're in a situation where it feels like it's useless.
Okay, that's fair.
And I don't know, I wanted to get like other opinions on this from the other
Yeah.
healers. Like, unless you're an Astro, it doesn't feel like
Mhm.
Piety is a good stat at all.
I've been feeling it a lot. Like, I do think that it's not the greatest. Like, there's times where I don't feel it, but then whenever I look at pugs and I usually meld Piety. I think I actually still have Piety melds on just because I don't trust my pug co-healer to actually do anything. So if I'm doing all of the raises,
Yeah, the purpose just seems to be to allow you to do extra raises.
yeah, that's it. But like
That's
outside
pretty
of
much why it
raises, I don't feel
exists.
like I need it. It's just like a safety net that I keep on, but it's not needed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Momo?
with the addition of ED, beforehand you might have needed to meld Piety, but as soon as they added ED back and they made ED 500 per, you know, generally
It's
even
not
if you're
even that much though. Like,
well,
I wasn't really. I don't think I would have suffered without ED. Sorry, Momo.
No, you're good. I was just I was trying to think. Like, I mean,
like I think in Prague, I rarely ED in Prague, right? It mostly goes on Aether Flow healing, like safety stuff like X-Cogs and things like that.
Yeah.
Like once every 60 seconds maybe. So it's like a minor buff for Prague. It gives you like more MP than you could ever possibly need in farm though.
I wonder what would happen if you tried running like a Scholar can't do it because we have Piety in our weapon, but White Mage has a best in slot that is 600 something Piety.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Scholar would have been able to do that without, you know, using any external means. I'm trying to think, but I honestly can't remember how MP was before the ED change because it was so long ago. I didn't really play too much because Scholar was really boring back then.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's with ED, you know, current Lucid, White Mage has thin air size, like it's completely irrelevant to both these jobs how much piety you have outside of like Prague. I mean, even like in Prague, like White Mage, my White Mage ran, we did like a weekly clear and he had like really low piety, and at the end of the fight with like a sloppy kill, he was still like over like 5,000, over half his MP. And it's just like, that's just how strong White Mage MP is. Like it's pretty big, and that's also a determining factor in the balance between healers because Astro can't get away with that low piety, right? So technically White Mage is also getting extra stats from not being able to, you know, having to meld or eat piety food or whatever, or use piety gear. They're getting extra stats from that Astro can't do.
Yeah.
So Astro definitely needs an MP fix.
Yeah, it definitely does. You can't, like, I find on Astro right now, I think on my Astro I have 1100 piety, which is lower. It's on the lower end, but if I cast like more than one aspected Helios per minute, I'm gonna be in trouble. And I want to have extra piety, like, I mean, not piety, I want to have extra mana just in case people die too. It feels like on Astro, if there's more than like 3 deaths, I'm in trouble. It doesn't feel good. And you really have to restrict the amount of aspected Helios as you do. So you want to basically only be doing aspected Helios to proc horoscope or neutral sect. You can't do stuff. You can't do more outside of that or it's super punishing.
I mean, so in my opinion, if you have 3 deaths in your group, you should be starting to kind of get into trouble just by design standpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Anyway,
yeah.
Like as an extension of this,
okay,
I kind of wanted to get into like, it's relevant to the earlier conversation, right?
Sure,
where we were talking about off globals being too strong.
I like you coming alive for this point.
Like, well, you stopped trying to get me to give my opinion on like, give your an opinion as a casual player. Well, I'm not a casual player, so it's kind of difficult, right?
No, yeah.
So, but anyway, so we're talking about off globals being too strong.
Yeah.
And piety feels really weak as a stat, which is, you know, it's your unique stat as a healer. Should probably have some use for it, right? we should go, design going forward should evaluate how to use MP as a resource for healing again, because at the moment it doesn't feel like it is. Like you're using free heals to do the bulk of the requisite healing. Whereas if they add new spells rather than new abilities in the next expansion,
You have to make a
they can
decision.
experiment with having more costly heals that you need to budget use of properly.
Okay.
I think a good
Like back when like you didn't have thin air as a white mage and you were trying to budget when to use cure 3 because it costs a lot of MP, right? Now you can thin air and just like spam it like crazy, like whatever. But MP management should be a part of being a healer.
I agree. I feel
that's my
Yeah.
personal opinion.
Yeah.
And at the moment it doesn't feel like it really is.
I'll be honest, in other jobs I kind of feel that same way about like TP being removed, like you're not having to think about it or manage it in some way, and I feel like that's kind of cheap. It makes things way too easy because you're not thinking about the value of using that ability and it affecting things later on. But I don't know.
I actually had a thought about this when I was looking at your questions. There's 2 scenarios that I came up with for Piety, and Ice is gonna hate one of them, and I would hate it too. But I think it would be better than the current system, because currently, right now, like even in Stormblood, really, like your eyes aren't really focused on your MP bar, right? Unless you didn't have refresh or something in Stormblood, like refresh and lucid, it carries your MP. So one of the things is basically adding like an MP cost to off GCD skills, like it's just a small one, like kind of like how Scholar was back in Stormblood. I mean, it is now, but again,
yeah,
MP
I've
is just a
considered
joke.
that as well, like giving the off globals a cost.
Yeah, and then the other one is turning Piety into like a tenacity equivalent, and then removing either, like, so like let's say your Piety, it gives you a small increase in damage, it increases your heals by a small amount, and it increases your MP regen by a small amount. I think that'd be a lot more useful than it is currently. And it would also influence people to actually, give an incentive to meld Piety as well, because you're getting some return at least. And then you could go down the route of, this is what Ice is going to hate, but you could also remove the MP cost of GCD spells entirely and then make harder healing checks, because you wouldn't really be punished for GCD healing anymore. I mean, personally, if that's what it takes for them to add like healing checks in the game, then I wouldn't really mind it too much.
I think at that point, if you remove the MP cost entirely, then you're risking like the DPS that a healer does becoming even more
like a disparity.
Criticized. Yeah. Like if you can get through everything just spamming Medica, yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think the best idea is probably just a tenacity-ish equivalent, but or the off GCD MP thing. It's probably the best actually, just off GCD MP, but that would also add like a skill gap that Skrinix probably doesn't want to make.
Yeah, we've seen that skill gap diminishing for quite a while now, and it makes sense in a way, but man, I really, really wish that they would start putting these things in there to where I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm a badass and this guy sucks because I'm just better because I had the room to grow and he never grew. And that feels like that's definitely going away. That's part of the argument with a lot of healers right now, isn't it? No? No?
I mean,
I didn't catch. Can you repeat?
I feel good knowing that it was harder to get to the skill level that I would be at. Knowing that like if someone picks up the game tomorrow and they're able to play it as efficiently as I do, even though I spent years playing that job, it feels off. Do you guys?
It feels like, do you feel like it undermines the amount of effort you put in, or?
In a way, right? It undermines experience and knowing how to do things. My experience right now is when I see Flare, I know what Flare does. right? It's not hard to get to that rotation level. Although, again, the bottom line is still pretty low, and I feel like they could lower it even more to make up for a lot of other players who don't want to push forward and get better at the game. But speaking of it in that way, it does feel like it's nice to have, some amount of I'm good at this game. Because I know what I'm doing, I'm skilled, and it takes experience to get to it. It doesn't feel as good knowing that someone who is just a regular intelligent person can come up and do exactly what I do with a day of thought into it. But that's really goes into PvP more than anything else. But
This is sounding pretty elitist. I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie.
it's fine. It's fine.
I mean, I guess my my version of this would be like looking at, say, like the FF logs rankings or whatever, and then like seeing like completely who people like at the top,
No.
of,
Well,
the healers.
it's
and,
not.
I haven't got a clue who they are.
This is really coming from my experience with PvP over the last couple of years, where they dumb the system down so much, you really just don't think about it, and you just learn it pretty quickly, and you're as good as some of the best players out there, because what they can do differently than people who figure out the core of the game is that much. And so you're completely dependent on just your entire team being that much better than the regular player. But that's a whole different atmosphere.
I think kind of on that line, it's a little bit off, but a little bit on the elitist side. But just in terms of healing, one thing that I miss is punishment for overhealing, which was especially in Stormblood with White Mage, because you would rip aggro if you overhealed. And that was an issue with White Mage in general. But now, because aggro isn't an issue, there's no punishment for overhealing, especially because mana isn't an issue anymore either. I mean, you're gonna run out of mana definitely, but a lot less than you would in Stormblood. So I think I only get bothered because most of the pugs that I come across are overhealers. They overheal the crap out of everything, and their HPS is like 17k. It's like abnormally high. And I think I just kind of miss that punishment, because I feel like there should be some punishment besides just losing MP whenever people overheal, because it's, in my opinion, it's a bit much what I come across now.
There was a healer in a pug who used 21 Medica 2s, and he didn't even drop below 5,000, probably half their HP or MP. Like, I didn't see a drop at all. And it's like, if you did that like back in, even in Stormblood, right, you would probably run out of MP fairly quickly.
Yeah,
Probably have aggro too.
that's my main problem.
unless your PF tank was
That's
just
a thing.
Yeah, you'd rip so much
combo.
aggro.
Right.
Like, you'd be dead because you'd have ripped
Like-
aggro.
But that's one aspect of healing that I will admit that I kind of miss, because aggro is not an issue anymore, and that's one change that I absolutely despise a little bit.
You liked healers being able to grab aggro from
Well,
tanks?
no, but it made me want to not overheal. Like, it made me optimize healing more. Like, it made me think about it. It put I put more thought into the healing that I did. I was like, oh shit, like maybe I shouldn't have done that Medica 2 because it wasn't needed, and now it's just like pure overheal regen, and I'm gonna rip aggro. Fuck, like it was just something extra that you thought about and forced me to not overheal. It got me in that mindset right away, right off the bat. But now, because there's no punishment, healers don't resort to that as bad, like as quickly, I should say.
Okay.
Because they don't feel the punishment in it. But maybe that's a bit much. I don't know, but I do miss that.
No, that's good.
Zeb
Yeah.
asked a good question. Let me scroll up. Saul is gonna bring it up. But he said, how do you feel about the future of healers, considering they refuse to increase buttons and keep the same amount?
Not optimistic.
You say not optimistic?
Yeah.
I mean, it just really depends on how the fourth healer goes. I think that's like the saving grace, and if they fuck that up, then I think a lot of people are probably done. Like, I think probably a lot of the more veteran healers, the more experienced healers, are quitting healing at this point, or only healing during prog. You know, they're not really interested in speed killing, because like what is speed killing, right? Like, even in speed killing, you can't even optimize your rotation. you literally just sit there pressing one button while other people optimize. So you're just like sitting there. You're existing in a sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not keen on doing any optimization right now, like in this expansion.
So
Well,
like
I mean-
outside of Prague, it's like, what is there?
Speed
What does it
runs,
do?
right? And so when you guys get fully geared and you get into speed runs, you're not going to think about it as much?
I mean, we are fully geared, and I don't think we're talking about speed runs
Oh,
right now. I mean,
no.
we'll almost certainly do something as like prep for ultimate when that's slightly closer, but
I guess there's never
none of
going
us
to
are
be
really
a gauntlet
motivated
race.
to do it.
Gosh. Never going
Like,
to have
none of
my-
us are like, there have been times in the past where we've like wanted to just get back in and do stuff, but like this is not one of those tiers.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe if the fights were more interesting too. But like they really need to increase like the healing. Even for like a casual player, I feel like the tier was way too easy to heal.
Okay.
Like Leviathan, there's literally no HPS check aside from Tsunami 2, which is all like it's a burden on the scholar, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
E1,
I just think if they increase the healing, we need more different healing spells
exactly,
rather than abilities.
yeah.
Like make
they
us
need
cast
to.
some spells, make us use some MP, make us think about resource management.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think the chat wants to ask a good amount of questions here, so I'm gonna go ahead and if you guys want to click on that link, there's a form for you to submit a question. You can submit it. If I see it and I'm like, we kind of already talked about it, I'll probably skip over it. But feel free to ask anyways. Just if you don't know it's been answered or not, and if it hasn't been asked, I'll probably ask it. That being said, guys, we do have a giveaway that we will be doing. Thank you so much to the gracious Crystaahhl here for being the person who provided it. And I'm going to show you guys a couple of pictures that we have of some of the, how do you say it?
Kigurumi.
Karagumi.
Kigurumi.
Kagurumi.
You can
All
just say
right.
Kegu too.
Kegu. Okay, I'll say Kegu. She's doing a giveaway for one of these that she'll custom make for one of the winners. And so if you guys win this, you'll get in contact with her, and she'll work on making that and send it out to you. And I think she said it's not region bound?
Yep, it's international wherever you live. I'll ship it to
Crazy.
you, don't worry.
She'll get it to you. So if you guys want to win one of these, please enter the giveaway here that we'll be doing in just a second. And also, if you don't win, I believe she has a store too that you guys could purchase these from. But that being said, give me a moment. I do have an advertisement to try to convince people to use their Twitch Prime subs and all that stuff. I'm going to go ahead and play it real quick. So give me a second, and then we will be right back. I have to do this manually. Welcome back. We have Crystaahhl sporting off one of the giveaway items that we have. So before, I'm going to ask one question before we even get into starting that giveaway, so I can go ahead and do some of this stuff. I'm going to go to one here. So here's just a basic question. We did talk about the fourth healer a little bit here, but if you had to design what the fourth healer would be, what are some of your assumptions to what Square Enix might be doing with it?
Disc Priest.
Disc Priest?
That's it. I literally can't assume. It's either they go Disc Priest or they finally split Astra into Regen Healer and they make another Shield Healer. That's like the only two things that I could think that they would do.
Okay, so it'd be 2 Regen and 2 Shield?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on one second. Oh, Momo, you already said yours. Ayesa, what's your thoughts on this?
Mechanically, or do you want me to like guess like Final Fantasy jobs or whatever that they have
Both.
used?
Why not both?
Because I think the main ones that people think are like Chemist and maybe Geomancer, but I think White Mage covers too much of Geomancer. However, they have like started moving away from throwing rocks and stuff in favor of like actual holy spells
Yeah.
with like Glare and Dia. So maybe they want to like set the road for that.
Okay.
But
So
I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy person, so I don't know too much about what other healing archetypes they've had before.
Okay. We'll let you slide on it. Crystaahhl.
So mechanically, I'd want a shield healer though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crystaahhl, what's your thoughts?
I am a totally uncreative person, so I have none. Like when it comes to game design, especially because Final Fantasy 14 is the only MMO I've ever played. So I can only compare healing to healing in Final Fantasy 14. So I have no idea. But I do think that in adding a new healer, you can't have Astro both diurnal and nocturnal. Like I think they need to choose one or the other in the end. It's just gonna end up too awkward, I think, with a new healer and a new identity. But that's my only thought on it.
No, I can completely agree with you. They need to cut off Astro and say you're just a healer, a pure healer now, and then make a shield healer and split them off into two. And I think
Like
that's
just give it a sect. Don't give it a choice.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna create this giveaway real quick. You need to type in Crystaahhl in the chat.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So in honor of the giveaway here, you have to spell it right.
2 H's.
Yep. You gotta do it right, guys. And so type that in the chat if you'd like to enter into the giveaway, and she will ship it out. Again, this is not region specific, so wherever you are. And I don't know if it's case sensitive or not. It may be, it may not be. But I'll let you guys work on that.
It may be
50-50.
case sensitive. You
don't
may
know.
not be entered into the giveaway.
I do it
knows?
exactly as
This is
it
the test,
says. No. And I will say, Momo and Spencer, you guys are able to get in there. Hey, Crystaahhl, if you want to enter in the giveaway too, you can too.
Yeah,
You're also not limited, like if whoever wins the giveaway, you're not limited to like a single Kigurumi like this one. You don't have to. It's just whatever's in my store. You can have any one Kigu from the store.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
Sounds like a plan
God.
here.
I like how my chat is all red now. I've never had that before.
It's just pure red. That's
Just pure red.
That's amazing. All right. So here's a question. I'm just going to kind of pick this at random and hope it is good. Switch from tank to healer from E3S to E4S.
I'm
We
gonna
still
put it in the chat.
okay. We still managed. Yeah, please, guys, check out her shop there. Okay, switch from tank to healer from E3S to E4S. We still managed to kill it by day 4, and both of us got high purples. But I would like to know what experience the experience is from progging ultimate versus savage. Okay, so this actually might be a really good question for Spencer. You can kind of tell what the difference is for your team to prog ultimate versus savage. Is it only time and going to sleep? Is that really it?
Yeah, there's certainly the fatigue that you have to deal with if you're. I mean, it depends how many hours you want to do, right? So with us, we do like the really long sessions for ultimate. So fatigue becomes a huge factor after. I don't know. I'd probably say like after about 12 hours, I can start feeling it. And just trying to stay on top of the split decisions. Like if something goes wrong, trying to stay on top of split decisions is difficult after that time. And also like absorbing new information when you're that tired is also a huge factor. In terms of like healing ultimate versus healing savage, I don't think there's too much difference other than the fact that like you will be expected to mitigate properly like all the time. Like there's a lot more mitigation checks, I think.
Okay.
Especially on the Scholar. I feel like the Scholar has like in both ultimates we've seen so far, Scholar usually has the hardest healing role part because they have to be on point with their mitigation.
You also have a huge responsibility to not die in pretty much every ultimate. Like if you die, it's almost guaranteed wipe, I think, in Ultimate. Very few spots where you can die, I think, and still like continue.
Okay.
Also, use
Since you're
super
more-
ethers in ultimate.
I mean, it depends. Like UCOB, there's spots where you can die and get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Uwu, like maybe on Titan you can die. But like, yeah, in general, like if you die, you're not making the next heal check.
Okay. Would you guys support bringing back the old Cleric Stance to maybe keep
Yes.
OGCDs in
No.
check? No?
You said yes.
Yeah, I said yes. Of course.
Oh, okay. So from like an optimization perspective, I think Cleric Stance was good. But for the average player, I think Cleric Stance would be a huge mistake because all that would bring back would be 0 DPS healers in PF again. And players who just wouldn't want to, either leave Cleric Stance or go into it. So I feel like that's a pretty big trap.
Okay.
It depends, right? Because I think we've gone too far from how it used to be with, like we've got such a streamlined DPS rotation now that I don't think it would be as difficult to swap in and out of Cleric as it used to be. Like specifically for like Scholar or something, like you've got 1 dot now. You don't have to keep up 4 and your Shadow Flare and things like that. I don't think it's ever coming back. I miss it because it was certainly a part of like your growth as a player, like how well you could use it, and it certainly like separated. It continued to separate players a bit more, even when content was on farm, how well you could utilize it. I don't think it's ever coming back. I'm fine with that. I just wish we had something a bit more involved,
Okay.
DPS wise, since it's gone.
Crystaahhl, did you have a lot of experience with the old Cleric Stance?
Nope. I only started playing this game. My first raid tier was Sigmascape,
Mm-hmm.
so Stormblood. I came in at
Stormblood,
the like, mid
baby.
Stormblood, so I would still say I'm a relatively new player.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's ask this question then, and I'll let Crystaahhl start this one off. Do you think the dev team is aware of these issues, and is this the start of a long-term rebalancing, as we saw with tanks, or do you think the dev team doesn't know what to do and has struggled to find a way to make healing work with their fight design ever since the introduction of Astro? This feels like a mean question to ask you, but
Oh, I do think that the dev team is aware,
mm-hmm.
but I don't know if it'll ever be as good as the balance of tanks right now. I do think that they have like a really good improvement with the encounters as of right now, but I think that might be a good start to get the healers in a better spot in terms of balance. But I'm also probably of the rare opinion that I do think that they're okay as far as balance goes. And I only mean that in the sense of like co-healing. Like whenever you have, I mean, in Stormblood, it was always like Scholar Astro. And now I feel like White Mage Scholar is a lot better of a comp now. And with, I think Astro White Mage will be a little bit better with the knocked buff next patch, hopefully. It's still a little bit more work. As of right now, it's not a good comp, but I'm hoping that it'll be at least a little bit more manageable. But yeah, I don't know. I think the dev team is aware, but I don't know if it's actually going to get better or not. I don't have high hopes, to be honest.
Can I answer this question? I can
Yes,
feel my blood
Momo.
boiling.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So you can tell me to calm down whenever you want. But
Calm down.
I don't think they have a fucking clue. Because if they had a fucking clue, they might have invited somebody who actually played fucking healer to go test out the jobs or like look at the jobs. The only healer I think that went was
Are we talking about the
Tate.
media tour?
Yeah.
Mediocre.
Oh, come on.
Oh, okay.
All right. You
Yeah,
didn't
like-
have anyone that was like super well, okay, so when we're talking about media tour, we're not talking about the best players, right? They're not beta testing.
I'm not just talking about media tour. I'm talking about anything. They don't outreach to anybody. They've never outreached to anybody in this game, right? No matter what job you play, they never reached out and said, "Hey, how does this feel? Hey, how does this feel?" No, they like to sit down. They like in their little hole, just chilling, with their whatever ideas they got going, and they just pray. They just hope that for some odd reason, it just works out. Sometimes it does. Sometimes they have some really good ideas, and then sometimes, ooh, they got some really bad ones. And sometimes those really bad ones leave, the office or the development cycle, or whatever, and they get imported into the game. And I'm not, I don't really feel some of them. So maybe if they had like a better PR team, or what is it called, PTR?
PTR for public test room.
Yeah. That maybe some things would have been different, but I think they really need to step up with like that PTR like segment kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it's created a lot of issues in the game that could have been fixed very easily if they had it.
I kind of half agree with that. I do think that it would be nice to have a better forum for people to communicate with the Square Enix team, that people who know what they're talking about can tell them their thoughts and feeling. But it's a little bit more difficult, I think, overall, adding in that language barrier, of course, as well. But when we're talking about this, by the way, I'm sure, Momo, you're making sure Square Enix doesn't send me anything else to give away, but that's okay. I'd rather have you on the show, Momo.
Wait, what'd you
Wow.
say? Wait, what'd you say?
I said likely you're trying to help make the point that I'm not going to have any more Square Enix giveaways anytime soon. But it's okay.
No.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's fucked. If they do that, it's fucked.
No,
up,
they
dude. My
wouldn't.
opinion is my opinion.
No, I'm just messing with you. But yeah, I feel like they have a handle on it, and they. But the thing is, they're trying. It's like they got their hands sitting there holding out, trying to make everybody happy, and not make as many things spill through the cracks, like as many players spill through the cracks, and they're trying to make everybody happy, and so it does make it harder to make. I guess players who want to play to the highest tier and push it that much more happy, along with these guys who want to come in and press one button because that's the thing that makes them happy.
No, that's fine. That's
yeah.
fine. My issue comes from it really feels like the design team is very, very disconnected from the encounter team.
I would say
That's
that feels true. That feels
Yeah.
true. But I don't know. I don't know how they work in the back end. That's not transparent for us. And
Yeah, I don't know.
it'd be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I did find out something that was actually really interesting at the media tour, which is that there's only one designer on the Chuckbo Racing team. And one person
Asking
made
the
all that.
important questions,
Yeah.
Frosty. Asking the important questions.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know what I found out too is that he's now a raid designer. There's nobody on the Chuckbo Racing team anymore, and
You're not getting more content.
I'm not getting it. No, I'm not going to get a Chuckbo
Nope.
Racing show.
It's all over.
Yeah. But there you go. That's where Alpha came in. That's why he exists in our previous raid tier.
So I'll just add my opinion quickly.
Sure.
But I don't think they're aware of how inconvenient it is to have so many off-global abilities and no smooth way in which to weave them, because
Yep,
it's
same.
incredibly frustrating as a healer.
Mm.
I would agree.
And they fixed this with Astra, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was the worst offender. But they've gone backwards with Scholar, and to an extent with White Mage as well, because it lost Error 1, like automatic upgrade. And Error 2, because those used to be like 18 seconds, and now they only have a 30-second dot. So like they're going backwards with the other two healers.
Okay.
And it just makes the jobs feel clunky to play, and it seems odd to me that they can playtest these and think that they're completely fine, because they don't feel smooth to play at all.
Well, yeah, you do have to think about that a little bit if they do play that, because it's a different perspective from people who know what they're doing. Like they know the jobs and they know the design and everything else, and then they go into a raid environment and they can kind of feel like that feels okay. But like people who really start to dig into it are the players when they play it over and over and over and over again. So I think what happens is they get like a test run with it and they go through a few iterations, but they don't go really deep into it. And it would be nice to have some sort of form of PTR that would allow for multiple tests and to really bang these things out. But
I think some people are
like-
gonna. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Like to some people, it may not matter if you do, I don't know, say you cast Medica and then hit a size, right? Like to some people that might not matter, but to those of us who have played the game a long time, we would much rather cast the instant Lily heal and then hit a size,
mm-hmm.
because you're not like wasting potential cast time. And I just don't think it's something that ever gets taken into consideration with healers.
Okay. And I do want to quickly remind everybody, just real quick, this is going to be one of your last chances to enter in the giveaway. And I'll do just a quick few pictures. I know you guys probably have more to say on that, but I just want to make sure to show this off again real quick so we don't forget about it. If you want to enter into the giveaway, type Crystaahhl, exactly as I have it spelled, in chat. So you guys will be entered into this, and it is not region specific. Okay, Momo, I thought I heard you breathe for just a half a second like you're about to say something. Was that right?
I was just gonna say some people have this weird misconception that you have to be a really good player to give advice when that's not even the case. Like, I'm not saying listen to the best players in the world, because not even the best players are perfect, right? I'm saying that if you think that doing a recitation ad lib pre-pull is good, then you're wrong. That's basically what I'm saying. And Square Enix thinks that's good, so that's not how it works.
Oh, we're flaming the official job guide now, huh?
That's what I'm. Yeah, that was just something I saw.
I had to get that dig in. Okay.
Okay. I mean, it's good.
But,
you might as well.
Like something like that. Like, it's just it doesn't take an expert to see something that's clunky, right? Fey Union, for example, canceling itself, or Fey Blessing canceling itself, or ghosting because you weave 2 fairy skills. That's pretty noticeable. Moving your fairy, or using Whispering Dawn, then moving your fairy, then having Whispering Dawn ghost because you moved your fairy and tried to do like 2 actions at once. It's pretty noticeable.
Okay.
Like, these things doesn't take like a someone that's an expert in the game to understand.
All right. I think we need to do the drawing, guys. We need to go ahead and draw for this giveaway. Are you guys ready? We ready, everybody? We're gonna see. Did I win? Oh. Rob M 105 won this. Rob M, you have to respond so I know that you're alive with something that makes sense. And then Crystaahhl will get in touch with you after the show here. I don't see his name popping up. We'll wait. Make sure to tag me just so I can see it through the mess of everything. But you will have to respond here, at least within the next couple of questions, so we know that you exist. Again, let me announce it one more time. Rob M 105. All right. So that being said, let's go ahead and ask this next question here, because we do have a good handful of them. I want to make sure that we get as many as we can. Do you guys think the healers should have a 1.5 cast time on their spells?
At this point of the cycle, yeah, I think that's fine, because there's some skill in pre-positioning and slide casting, but like at this point, like what is there to really optimize? Because the 1 button stuff like broil, glare, it's not really something you can. I don't know. I feel like the healers would be a lot smoother if they were 1.5 seconds.
Okay. Do you guys all agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think it would do much harm at this point. It's not an ideal situation. Like, I wish there were more extensive kit so you had to plan a bit more. But with the way things currently are, and if they're working on a specific button budget, they can't add any more skills. They have to stick to, I don't know, 24 actions or whatever for every job. Then, yeah, may as well do it.
Okay.
Scholar would enjoy it.
All right. Next question here. Do you have any? This kind of, I guess, goes for that. Do you have any advice on proper weaving, especially on White Mage? How do you feel with being thrown out of your rotation? How do you deal with being thrown out of your rotation?
Maybe you can answer this one, Momo. I think you've got more White Mage experience than me this expansion.
So they're saying like they clip their rotation to do a Lily or to do an off GCD.
I'm not sure how that situation happens, but apparently they get thrown out. Like the group making mistakes. Okay, so the group makes a mistake, and you have to be thrown out of your rotation to make up for that mistake.
Well,
I guess this is talking about like a size alignment, maybe.
Maybe a size limit, yeah. I mean, there's just nothing you can really do to fix that because the only options to weave a size are either clipping it, using a lily, or using your dot. And if your size gets misaligned from your dot, then you just use a lily, or you somehow. I mean, if your dot reapplication is close enough to the size, I mean, you could hold it, but that's really all you can do. Swiftcast 2 is an option if you have it.
I think this exact situation is exactly why healers don't have a DPS rotation.
Oh, okay.
Well, if they had a DPS rotation, you wouldn't run into this problem because, like, if you had like
True.
a
Like-
you know, 2 instant cast dots, right? Like, let's say you had
Mhm.
one 30-second one, one 18-second one, right? Those are far enough apart to where you could fix something like that. Like back in Heavensward, right? You had a 30-second, 24-second, and an 18-second, I believe, on top of, like, I think it was 2 30-seconds actually, but was it 2 30-seconds, Ayesa? It was 30, 30, 24, 18? Or was it 21?
Dang.
Wait, which healer? Which expansion?
Heavensward Scholar.
Heavensward Scholar. Yeah, it was like 30, 24, 18, 18.
Yeah, so like if those, I think only Arrow 2 or Arrow is instant cast. I don't think the
Arrow and Bio 1 were both instant.
Bio 2 and Miasma.
Bio 2 and Miasma both had a cast time.
But if you made all dots instant cast, which would probably I would be down for because that would massively increase the playability of the game, then you would have so many more options to fix your rotation, like something like that happened.
Yeah, having a 15 or 18-second dot is actually incredibly useful, and they are sorely missed. I mean, potentially, okay, with the white mage thing, potentially, if you get value out of it, you can use a regen. If you need to a size, as long as you get value from it.
All right.
I mean, you are kind of screwed though.
Yes,
if you're like looking to max DPS and it's misaligned.
I do have a follow-up question to that. It's extremely related. It was about if you have a love for fishing.
Yeah, I love fishing.
God, no.
Really? It's so therapeutic.
I still don't have all the big fish though. Like I need to finish. I think I have like 10 left that I haven't caught.
I'm like a level 30 fisher, I think.
You're missing out on a lot of frustration and wasted hours of your life.
I can't.
Just can't do it.
It was actually the first gatherer that I leveled to 80 just because I wanted to get it over with and never touch it for the rest of the expansion.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't level any of my crafters or gatherers because I like enjoying my time when I play a game. And I don't enjoy that, so all right. So next question here is to Momo. EOS or Celine?
No. Oh no.
Gotta choose the right one.
About to lose half of your followership.
Think about this, like.
Eos.
See, good answer.
No, I wasn't thinking about the answer. I was thinking about the repercussions of choosing the wrong one.
Wait, so are you saying that you actually wanted to pick Celine, but you knew I'd judge you?
No. I'm saying I knew the answer was Eos, but I know.
Oh yeah, Eos is
the
Eos
chat
is the only,
thinks Celine is
one.
better for some reason.
Celine.
They're gonna go to your channel and unfollow you.
I don't need anybody that likes Celine watching my shit.
Oh, okay, all right. Momo mentioned that he thinks they should do Disc Priest as the 4th healer. I don't know. You don't. You're saying that kind of like with the idea of what Disc Priest should be, right? Because they're asking how you would propose that would work in the game, and I think that really just means that they just have shields, right?
Sure. I mean, I don't really know too much about Disc Priest because I don't play WoW. I've just talked to people who have played it, and the idea of it sounds like it could work in 14.
Okay. I think we're gonna stop on questions for right now. We got a good bit of them, and we're almost at 3 hours here.
Yo, coward, keep going.
I can keep going. All right. God, you pressured me. How do you go AFK to use the bio in the restroom during raids?
Slash
You do
follow.
E1S and you wait for the cutscene.
True.
Straight up.
Oh god. All right, here's a good one. PvP healing in 4v4 Feast requires high awareness reactions and is one of the highest skilled things you can do in the game. Have you tried it, and are you aware of rank 1 or FRC tier players that PvP and heal? I feel like this was a bait. A huge bait to try to get something like someone to make a jab at PvP.
If I could play like the cricket noise, I would, but I don't have it ready.
I don't know if it's a bait. Like PvP
Yeah.
healing does require a lot of skill. I haven't
Yeah.
done it in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't PvP in this game because I generally don't enjoy it.
Right.
But from my experience PvPing in other games, it's a really stressful job healing, and you have to work really hard at it. And if your
Yeah.
team sucks, it's the most depressing thing in the world.
So no, that's exactly how it is here. Because I did a lot of healing recently in PvP. That's actually where most of my healing experience recently is, I suppose. And it's rough. Almost every single game, you could probably pin that the healer had the most impact. Level of
A
difference.
good healer can carry pretty hard, but you also can't really turn around a losing team necessarily.
No, I mean
you get some teams where no matter how well you perform as a healer, you can't carry them.
Yeah. And this one and the iteration that it had recently that people were trying pretty hard at, which is not exactly right now because they're changing it up a lot. It's that the healers could keep people alive for so long that they would go into a mode to where everybody's damage would increase, and eventually your team would be able to kill them if you could keep them alive.
Eventually the dam breaks. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's really impressive to see healers in PvP in this game. But unfortunately not the topic of today. Yeah, it'll be when 5.1 hits, I think. And would you say White Mage is too important in the current meta due to how certain invulnerabilities work, Living Dead especially?
I think White Mage is important for multiple reasons. One, it requires no effort to like do really good damage, right? So like you could just go in like prog, especially like having a job during prog that you can do good damage on that doesn't require too much focus is extremely important. As well as having the MP capabilities White Mage has on top of, again, like, the Living Dead benediction. That's really good during prog too.
Okay. I am really proud of my noise gate right now. You guys might have heard dogs and doorbells and everything else, but it's been doing pretty good here on OBS. All right. I'm going to ask one more question. All right. Let me see if I can find one. Then I'm going to ask a personal question for you guys. What if they designed healers like tanks, where your primary rotation is more complex and damage-oriented, where OGCDs are focused on healing? Wait a minute. Did I understand it? What if they designed healers like tanks, where your primary rotation is more complex and damage-oriented, where OGCDs are focused on healing? Isn't it? Am I misunderstanding that? Or does that question make sense?
Repeat it.
I mean, I think it sort of makes sense in the context of like currently we don't have a DPS rotation really. We're pressing one button. So
Yeah.
Okay.
what if we actually had a DPS rotation if they want to keep healing the same, which they should.
I don't think healers
They
have
should
ever
more
had
DPS
a
buttons if they don't want to change the way healing works.
Would you sorry,
But
go
if they
ahead.
want to change healing, then it needs to become more spell based again.
Okay.
Would you have said that the old healing quote unquote rotation was the actual rotation? Because it felt more like a just keep up dots and do filler spell. more
It
than an
wasn't.
actual
Yeah, I mean,
rotation.
it wasn't a rotation. Nothing like, say, like, I don't know the tanks too well at the moment, but like Paladin has their physical and magic phases or whatever, and that's your fairly strict rotation, right? Cycling between them. Something like that falls apart on a healer if you have a strict rotation, because what if you actually have to cast some heals? Then you're kind of screwed, unless they want to move away from casting heals entirely and move like completely off global. In which case it could work, but probably feels a bit clunky.
Okay.
At least it'll take some getting used to.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's fine. And then all the bad healers won't play healer anymore. So be all right. Anyways, all right. I'm gonna ask you guys one more question here before we wrap up the show. This is the question I kind of want to end off on. And we said a lot of things and opinions that might go towards what you might say, but I'm gonna ask it flat out. If you guys were going to give advice to the team of Square Enix, and you're going to say what's the best and most logical and possible change that they could make to make healers better in the game, what would that be?
I would just say go back and spend some time with Heavensward Scholar and think about why people enjoyed it so much, because a lot of the answers are there. Your off GCs were impactful. Like when you used Indom back then, it made a difference. And there, you didn't have so many free instant off global heals that you could do. So like if you needed it for movement, you needed it for movement, and it had to be there. You couldn't just cycle through, 3 different options or whatever. So yeah, I think that the answers are there.
Okay.
Back in Heavensward.
Momo?
Give the healers more dot options with instant cast, so you have more mobility and weave options that we're not stuck using 1 dot every 30 seconds, and have more communication with the community. Because I mean, even it's pretty like even the casual community is pretty upset about how healers are right now.
Depends who you ask.
Like, yeah, it depends on.
I think white mages are pretty happy.
Yeah.
In general,
White mage.
Other jobs, not so much. Like other jobs,
I think that white mage is actually really well designed right now. I think it's
because they've barely changed it.
I think it's one of the better iterations of white mage, but it would be a lot better if it had like another dot.
Yeah. Crystaahhl?
I would agree that having more dots to weave would be really, really nice and make it feel, it would just feel slightly more fluid than it is right now. But that's basically it, because I can't compare to like old versions as much since I only started like the last month of Stormblood. So I only got like a little bit of a grasp how it was beforehand. But yeah, more weaving options would be nice. But I think overall White Mage is in a good spot. And I personally really don't mind Astro. I think Astro's fine. Just would rather they picked a sect rather than have the choice between the two and make it feel awkward.
Okay. Is that what you would say to Square Enix? Is make Astros pick a sect? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly.
Ayesa, as like one addendum, I guess, is remember that you're not just balancing the healers for raids. Like there's a lot of other content in the game that you have to do. Like you have to level up. You don't necessarily have to do it as a healer, but somebody has to heal those leveling dungeons, right? And then you have like the fates or like stuff like Eureka with the notorious monsters or whatever, and then like you have like deep dungeon. You've got experts that people have to run to cap their tomes. Like you got to do this as a healer, right? And you got to do it a lot. Like if you're capping tomes for an expansion, that's a lot of expert dungeons, and you need to make that experience interesting as a healer. So whether or not you increase the damage or give us more DPS options, something needs to be done, because like going in there and pressing one button is really boring.
Okay.
And I think that extending the DPS kit is more you are safer as players scale up and get more gear, right? So you can up the healing requirement, but then as players get more gear, there's you don't have to cast as many heals, right? But you can always be doing the damage, so
that's fair.
That's probably the way to go.
All right. We can go into our closing bits here and everything else. Before we go into the closing bits, I do want to reiterate again. Of course, the winner I'm going to be messaging you in Twitch chat, then I'll work with Crystaahhl and we'll figure out the best way to get all this worked out so you can get your awesome giveaway here. Oh, did they? Congratulations, Halloweeners. The last winner of the plushie that we had just recently just won, so congrats on that. But that being said, this is the first week that we did a community giveaway, and I want to make sure that you guys have access to her store in case you still wanted one, even though you didn't win it. So, Crystaahhl, can you please post that in chat one more time? And then I'm going to actually put that in the YouTube video as well, if people would like that, because we're trying to do more stuff with the community overall, and I feel like this is an awesome bit if we can get more people involved in this and kind of showcase some of the awesome people out there making stuff. So if you guys like that, want us to keep doing it, please let us know, and I will keep on it. That also being said, I want to go back to it, and I'm going to ask you guys all to kind of say your shout outs and anything else that you want to say before we finish off the show. And I guess I'll go clockwise. So I'll start with Momo. What's the last things you want to say? Shout outs, anything that you want to just tell people where they can find you, all that good stuff right now. Momo went AFK.
My mic was muted.
Okay.
I just had like a giant pop up on my screen my screen.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
I said, yeah, you can find me on Twitter or Twitch or YouTube, and shout outs to my team, White People Happy, because our name is awesome. White People Happy.
And I added it to my chat here.
I'm glad you did. No.
Okay.
But come on, don't compare it to the stuffed version. You have People Happy.
Well,
it's
that's
not
the version.
White People
quite
Happy.
the same.
It's not White People Happy.
We'll work on it. We'll work on it, man.
Get with the memes.
Okay. So yeah, please follow him. He's an awesome guy. He's always working on optimization, and he doesn't always just play healer. He plays a lot of different jobs. So you can learn a good bit by just watching him stream. Okay, and Crystaahhl, this is your first time on the show. Anything that you want to say before we get off the show today?
Yo, shout outs. Like, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. It's a good time. But yeah, I guess you can just find me stream full time on Twitch every day, except for weekends pretty much. And I also obviously have an Etsy store where I make kigurumis on the side of streaming. And Instagram and Twitter, it's all the same, Crystaahll. Shout outs to Twitch chat, the Wide People Happy chat.
Yeah.
They get the memes.
Absolutely.
You know?
They always understand it. They're 10 times ahead of the curve of me. I'll sit here looking dumb for a second, and then they just make fun of me more. Old man Frosty, dude. Okay. And then Ayesa.
Shout out to Nexum, who apparently isn't the one who asked the fishing question.
Oh, okay.
Also, shout out to Salim Moon if she's still here in chat. And shout out to the people who gift me subs on Momo stream so I can use their Momo staff email.
Nice. That being said, you can also follow him. He streams at Ayesa Fail with an E at the end of it. Let me just
stream
right there. So go over there and follow him if you want to see him. He does World Prog. So this is a really awesome player to watch play. When you see him, you can get like a lot of cool stuff from. So please, follow all three of our wonderful guests here. And being serious though, guys, it was amazing to have all three of you come on. I think we had a really good conversation here today. And
I have one more shout out.
Okay, I'll let you do one more before go.
Yo, shout out to Ayesa Fail's UCOB analysis video. Can you get some claps in chat?
Oh shit!
Okay, yeah, no,
you guys hear that?
I hear it. You know what's funny? There was a last scene playing Final Fantasy 14 Heavensward on your channel, Ayesa.
I don't know how that's even there. I don't think I've ever tried streaming because I know my connection can't handle it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I'm not sure how that happened. Seems appropriate. Seems appropriate. Like I feel like I've left myself there.
Yeah.
Back in Heavensward.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in Heavensward.
All right, guys. Thank you again for coming on. You have been absolutely amazing. Like I said, 500 times. Thank you, chat, very much for coming here and being a part of the show today. And I say this every single time. MogTalk exists here with the community. Without the guests, without the people watching it, without the people wanting more discussion out here, I wouldn't be here hosting the show. And I'm here just lucky enough to be able to get people on the show to talk with me and have fun for a few hours every Saturday. I do want to put a shout out to Carrara, who puts up with me spending my time here on the weekend, my limited time away from her and everything else, and I appreciate it because she knows this is how much it means to me. I want to thank my dogs, Frosty and Scout, real quick, for barking and putting in their input randomly throughout the show. And, of course, thank you, Blazana, for the artwork that we use on the show for the layout. And thank you, Andre Kane, for the intro and the closing music that we use for the theme of the show. And, of course, I do want to do one quick shout out to Square Enix, who did have all those giveaways previously. It was awesome to do a couple of months of just straight giveaways from things that you wouldn't be able to get unless if you were in arcades like in Japan. Hopefully we'll have more of those in the future. We'll see. But for right now, I do want to focus on some community giveaways. And with that all being said, I think that's good, guys. Be good to each other. Be cool. And stay frosty, I guess.
I'm sorry, Square Enix. Please don't be mean to Frosty for what I said. I didn't mean it. I was just, I was ranting. Apologies.
Oh my god. All right. Go to credits. There we go. All right. No.